the magnificent Tiergarten, a part of Berlin designated an area of natural beauty. There's so much to admire. The route of the marathon, as always, provides the contrast one would expect, with one or two ingredients that make it very special. The runners will pass close to forests, parks, gardens, rivers and lakes, as well as the normal built-up sections. And many events here have taken place over the whole weekend, but today spectators in their thousands will see almost 40,000 finish this marathon. It's worth repeating, too, that 10 official world records, 7 men and 3 women, have been set here over the years, the last in 2014, Dennis Kimetto, the first man in history inside 2 hours 3 minutes. For the first time in the history of the race, the top 3 male marathon runners in the world line up together. The world record once again will be under threat. As far as the women are concerned, the course record set in 2005 could also be beaten today. There's so much to savour as always here. This race could rewrite the history books. Well, Chris Dennis is alongside. Chris, your thoughts on this day?
Well, the men's event, Stuart, billed as the race of the decade, understandably. We've got the top 3 marathon runners in the world, as you say, all in the same race. All 3 have run under 2:04. All 3 currently stand within 25 seconds of the world record. Very much have the ability to break the record, but of course only one of them can win it. Breaking a world record, though, of course, isn't easy. It's like trying to bake the perfect cake. You have lots of ingredients all coming together in the perfect mix on a single day to produce the right results. The weather, of course, will be a factor. We'll talk about that in a moment. Tactics will play a part as well. So will the pacemakers as well. Well, all 3 of those main protagonists have been talking about the race. Let's hear what they've had to say.
I think I'm coming here for a first time. I hope it will be a great race, you know.
We have 3 strong guys, each potential to run a world record.
Kipchoge, Bekele, Kipsang, the 3 best marathon runners in the world, competing in one race.
There's a high possibility that we are really going to have a world record.
Eliud Kipchoge, Olympic gold medal winner in Rio and winner in Berlin in 2015. Wilson Kipsang, winner here in 2013 with a world record. And Kenenisa Bekele, last year's winner, only 2nd short of the world record after an intense battle with Kipsang.
I was very close to world record.
Last year, I think I was not strong enough.
It was a great race, you know.
This time, all 3 will be pushing each other to break the world record set here in 2014 by Dennis Kimetto.
It's not even about beating your opponent, it's just running a world record, yeah.
I have capacity that I can compare with any athlete. But all in all, we are 3 and we are strong. But I will be only 1 year.
3 runners, 1 goal, the world record. Well, so much to look forward to as those interviews will portray. There's so many ingredients in this. Incidentally, 43,852 is the official entry here on this day, this 44th running of this prestigious major marathon, one of the big ones. And we can have a look very shortly at the even pace graphic which would be required to break the world record. But look at the mist. It's very misty. We'll get the official weather statistics in a moment, but I'll tell you what, it's very misty. There's hardly any wind at all, and the conditions not too bad despite everything. Well, there is the split. It's even pace, so don't compare it exactly with what the Kimetto did, but that's what they've got to do on an even pace schedule to break the world record.
Yeah, we're talking, Stuart, for those who like to know their stats, of 2:55 per kilometre, or in old money, that's 4 minutes 41 per mile to hit world record pace.
Well, there is a men's race, of course. We've made a lot about that. And I have to say that there's a very good women's race, too. And we could see the course record broken here today. It's set in 2005, and that was by Mizuki Noguchi at 2:19.12. And I have to say that it is on the cards here today with Gladys Chirono, winner in 2015. She could well challenge that. Mikitenko is the second fastest on this course, Chirono the third overall. Lots and lots of preparation here. But I tell you what, let's just, before we get underway, let's hear what the women had to say prior to this race.
Gladys Chirono from Kenya, Amani Beriso from Ethiopia, and Valerie Ayabe also from Kenya. These are the top 3 women this year. One of them has won here before, Gladys Chirono in 2015, in under 2 hours and 20 minutes. Now she's ready to do it again.
My body is in good form and I want to run my personal best. You know, I want to win the race and also to improve the time.
Her young compatriot Valerie Ayabe is making her first appearance in Berlin. But with 3 wins in her last 3 marathons, she's all set to impress in this special race.
Berlin is a first course. It gives you that morale of running and winning the race.
And then there's the Ethiopian Amani Beriso, another Berlin debutant with a personal best just outside 2 hours 20. My preparations went well, so I hope I'll be able to improve my personal best. But my main goal is to win the race. Chirono, Beriso, Ayabe, they're all here to win it.
Well, there is another one of the big names in this race, Anna Hana, with lots of home support, of course, behind her. The German #1, perhaps not quite in the shape she was a couple of years ago. She has had quite a serious injury during 2016, but of course the home supporters were behind there. Confirmation of what Stuart was saying a few moments ago, just under 44,000 in total registered entrants, and there they are, as far as the eye can see, down the Strasse of the 17th of June, all the way to the Siegersäule. 137 nations represented at this wonderful marathon, one of the founding members of the World Marathon Majors, the most prestigious marathon, city marathons in the world, and this the 44th edition, if you like, of the Berlin Marathon. It really is a wonderful spectacle, a real festival of running, and there you get a sense of the conditions. Let's just update you officially on the weather. There was heavy rain overnight, I can tell you. It was beating down on the hotel windows overnight. The wind, thankfully, much slower than was expected. Good conditions.
Let's have a look at the journey ahead. The start in the Tiergarten goes past the Siegersäule along the Strasse, the 17th of June. Then on towards the Al-Moabit at 5 kilometers. And at 6.5 it passes through the Bundeskanzleramt, the federal chancellery, and the Reichstag, the federal elections, of course, being held over this weekend. Between 10 and 11, it passes the TV tower at Alexanderplatz, the tallest building in Germany, built in 1969. Then on to the 15-kilometer point at the Reichsberger Strasse. The 20-kilometer point is reached just before the end of Yorkstrasse. And then the half-marathon distance at the end of Potsdamer Strasse. At 23 kilometers, the course passes the Rathaus Schöneberg, the city hall, and then on to 25, Reichstrasse, 28, the Wildenebe, the Wild Boar roundabout, and then 30 kilometers, the Hohenzollern-Damm. At 34 kilometers, we've gone through the Kurfürstendamm to Tronsinstrasse, Seinstrasse, and at 38 kilometers, the National Gallery and the Philharmonie to Potsdamer Platz. Through 40 kilometers and Gendarmenmarkt at 41 kilometers along Unter den Linden through the Brandenburg Gate to this finished position. Well, a man who really promises so much. There's Bekele just with #1 on his back. Number 45 on his back there too is one of the late entries in this start list. we'll bring you up to date on that in a moment. Kenenisa, Bekele, Kipchoge, Kipsang. Look at that. And the rest, well, they'll have their work cut out to stay with the early pace. I have a feeling that, well, we'll come into that early pace, and what they've asked for, it's quite astonishing. Kandie, Sano, Guye, Shitara, Geremew, Shadi and Belachu. It's a good lineup.
Well, as for the women, confirmation of the main names to look out for. We've already heard from Chirono, Beriso and Ayabe. We've got Helen Tola there. Great strength in depth from the Ethiopian team there. Anna Hana wearing 10. And we should also mention Maya Neuenschwander from Switzerland, who's 37 years old now, a veteran of 20 marathons going for Switzerland today. So just under 5 minutes away from the official start. The anticipation rising all the time. Anybody watching this who's done a marathon or thought about it will appreciate the nerves that start jangling. And right at the front there, the elite athletes.
Yes, and that's evidence of the mist, and we can tell you that the helicopter is not flying. The cloud cover is too low. We hope we get that helicopter cover later on, but certainly this is an occasion which the introductions for the women will be the first on the agenda.
Anna Hana then, right of picture there, just exchanging a nice handshake and smile with some of her fellow competitors wearing number 10. There she is, Anna Hana. Has run 10 marathons in her time, 27 years old. And her record here, 7th, 8th and 13th. This is her 4th appearance in Berlin. She'll have huge home support behind her. There is Amani Beriso from Ethiopia. 2nd in Dubai last year. That was only her second marathon. She's only won 3 in her entire career, so she's a relative novice, but she is some talent here. That is Beriso from Ethiopia. Centre of picture. Chirono then. Gladys Chirono, winner here 2 years ago, just 13 seconds off that course record held by Noguchi that has stood now for 12 years. And she said, as we heard in that clip, that she felt good and confident. She did have a lengthy injury layoff last year with a stress fracture, so the only question mark over Chirono is how well she's recovered from that setback last year.
Well, much has been made of what might be. As far as the men are concerned, there is so much promise here, and the meticulous preparations with 3 excellent pacemakers, and they've been practicing the pace, and I have to say that it is quite meticulous, and I'll explain a little bit more about that in a moment. Well, Vincent Kipruto, former world record holder now. He is one of the greats, there's no question about that. His disappointment in the Olympic Games of 2012, well, he's made amends for that since then in these majors. Probably the greatest of all, Eliud Kipchoge, a man who really has won 7 out of his last 8 marathons, and has made such preparations for this. He almost broke the record in London in 2016. It was only just a few seconds short. He didn't realise until too late, or he could probably have done it, but to do it in London, wow. The slighter figure of Bekele. He is the world record holder, 5:10, and if he could do the win here and break the world record, then that would be a first as well, to hold the records in those 3. He's one of the greats on the track, that's for sure. And very, very difficult to beat. He is a man who is not as consistent as some of the others. He's had his ups and downs in every sense of the word, but run the 2nd fastest of all time, and wasn't selected for the Olympic Games in Rio, incidentally. The start almost there, and I'll explain about the quality of the pacemaking as well at the helm of this. Well, the journey begins, and Kipchoge has asked for split times on one of the leading vehicles for every 200 meters for the first 2 kilometers, and then every 500 meters beyond that, and that is quite something. I mean, so meticulous and detailed, and we'll see how that affects how the rest respond to him and the way in which the race unfolds.
That is unprecedented, isn't it, Stuart? We've never had that in a race before in all the years we've been covering marathons all over the world, and I think that's probably borne out by his experience in Monza. Many of you may remember that he did the what's been called a lab test back in May in artificial, illegal circumstances and just outside the magic 2-hour mark there. But I think he learnt a lot from that experience, and we will try and bring you as much of that information as we can. As Stuart was saying, split times every 200 metres for the first kilometre and then 500 metres thereafter.
Well, it looks as though they're almost breaking away already. I mean, they're bound to, though. They really are. There's one interesting debutante, Guye Adola of Ethiopia. He'll be wearing number 45. He's a sub-59 half marathon man. But some of the athletes in this leading group, let me just, Sami Kitwara, number 60, he's a 2-hour, 4 minutes, 28 marathon runner. He's the first pacemaker, wearing 60. And then 61 is Gideon Kipchoge. He's a 2:5:51 man. And then Jeffrey Rono paced Dennis Kimetto to 30 kilometres in his world record race. So there's such quality. And they have been practicing. As we got a brief glimpse of the 40-odd thousand leaving, this little group is already beginning to break away, and it's not unexpected. If you're running round about, you know, 2-3, between 2-3 and 2-4, or even quicker, then, well, it's expected. It isn't raining, but it's misty. There's not a lot of wind around. That's the good thing. I was a bit worried that it might be very cold. It's not that cold, and we hope that as the morning goes on, it does warm up a little bit, and if there is any rain, then it may well come after the finish of the elite part of this race. So there's a lot of ingredients here.
Yes, and just going back to the pacing, it was interesting that all three of the main runners here we've been focusing on there, we see the top of the Siegersäule, one of the main landmarks in Berlin, built at the end of the 19th century to commemorate victory in the Prussian War over Denmark. But going back to the pacing, Eliud Kipchoge was saying he would quite happily go out the first half in 60:45, to which Bekele said, well, if that's what you want to do, Sunshine, I won't be coming with you. Bekele, I think we've agreed Stuart will run his own race. And Kipsang, just to right of picture there in the interesting colour there of the sort of rust, has also said if it's 60:45, 60:50, that's okay with him. So an interesting little range, Stuart, of opinions on the pacing, but Kipchoge speaking very bullishly.
Yeah, Adola, the young man who's on his debut, is at the back there, and in that sort of a grey-coloured top, the back of that group. Bekele on the left of the shot, and you're quite right. Bekele said, I'm going to run what I call a sensible pace, because for me 60:45 has got to be suicidal. I mean, the Kimetto race was a negative split, 61:45 for the first half and then 61:11, but the splits, look at that, 2:52, and that's exactly what Kimetto did when he broke the world record. So it's starting off well, but we won't talk about predictions yet. The race is too early, but certainly we will look and see whether they can maintain or even speed up this pace. 45, that's Adola. Another little look at him. We haven't got too much on him, I must admit, but Guye Adola, a best of, I'm just looking at just under 50, under 59 minutes for this. He got a bronze in the half marathon championships in 2014. It is 59:21, I beg your pardon, is his personal best, just double checking on that. He was behind Jeffrey Kamwaro and Sege, and I have to say Jeffrey Kipsang, Kamwaro and Sege in that half marathon championship, just to give you a little bit, because he might not feature much longer if this pace continues.
Well, he's the unknown quantity, isn't he, in this race? And there we see the thousands and thousands of people. Of course, there are so many different stories. This is the enduring appeal of marathon running all over the world. We've got the elite race at the front, of course, and even within that, races within races, but then people running for charity, people running for all sorts of worthy causes, some of them extremely emotional and highly personal. But look at the leg speed there of this leading group. Just to remind you, world record pace would be 2:55 per kilometre.
Yeah, and 4:42 per mile for those of you who deal in miles. And they're the leading women, and they're with F4 on her back is Ayabe. Now, Ayabe actually could be a real threat in this. She really could. She's in good form. Second fastest time run in Berlin is Chirono at the 2:19.25, but certainly Ayabe looking to get her first sub-2:20 performance there in the red strip. There she is. All the principals look are all together there, as one would expect at this early stage of the race. And they would take the benefit of the male runners in this, as we talk about pacemaking quite a lot. The mixed races do give an advantage in a way to the women. That's why there are two records, really, a mixed race record and a women-only record in marathon running.
Worth reflecting on the fact that in both the men's and the women's race, not surprisingly, it's East Africa that have dominated over the last few years. There is Ayabe, Stuart was just talking about. In the men's race, a Kenyan or an Ethiopian has won the last 18 races, right back to 1998. And in the women's, 10 of the last 11 years have been won by somebody either from Kenya or Ethiopia. So the domination is almost complete there by East Africa. There is F4. Ayabe, 26 years old from Kenya. Chirono there. The previous winner, 34 years old. She's giving 9 years away, actually, on Bariso.
Let me just say that we will get time checks at the various 5-kilometre split marks, so that we'll get some idea of how they're going. But already this leading group, with the debutante on the back of it, and the pacemaking has been perfected. They've been away and a different part of Germany, actually on trial and trialling this pace with the equipment and the electronic equipment, and it's a first really. After Monza, well, there are all sorts of ways that people are trying to get as close as they can to 2 hours for this 42-kilometre journey, but certainly in Monza they had a phalanx, a sort of a pointed pacemaker to protect the athletes, but here of course there are 3 pacemakers, very, very good indeed. But when you consider that what has been asked at 60:45, that is too quick really. But then again, you've got one of the greats.
You have, and I think it's fair to say, Stuart, that if it is 60:45 or 60:50, there is going to be no negative split in this race, that's for sure. There's no way you can run the second half of the race quicker than that.
And of course, looking at last year, the Kipsang-Bekele race, remember Kipsang was away and looked to be in a good, comfortable position. Bekele, well, he dropped back and then all of a sudden came through in a very strong finish. He has got a strong finish. I tell you what, I reflect back to the Olympic 5,000 metres in 2008. In that race, just to give you some idea of his speed and his speed endurance, he ran 3:58 for the last mile. I mean, this guy is very, very special and still, in a sense, learning the event. He's relatively young to the event, or new to the event, but my goodness me, second fastest in the world all time at 2:03.03 last year. And he's the defending champion. His inconsistency, well, we'll see how that works in this race, whether it's the best we'll see of Bekele, whether it's something just off the best, well, we'll wait and see.
Well, for me, this group of 4, and it is 4, Guye Adola, is doing very well, just left of picture there. And here we are with the first of the mass starts at 9:15. Right on time, so the elite are approaching 3.5 kilometres, and the rest of the field, the nearly 44,000 as the balloons go up into the murky Berlin sky, and the Festival of Running is underway. It's just a women's start. Just to remind you, the women's race well underway. There we go.
And despite the transponders on their ankles as they go over the mats, and by the way, you have to go over the mats or there is a disqualification element here, there are personal stopwatches that are clicked because really they need to know. Individuals have been training for this from all over the world. Remember, 137 countries, and They come here for fast times. It's relatively flat. There's a brief slight uphill and then downhill, but it's nothing much and relatively flat as a marathon course.
So the elite men left of picture there, well into their stride, and it looks as though they've looking very comfortable indeed. Just worth reflecting, Stuart, on physically how they differ. You've got the tall figure there of Wilson Kipsang, 6 foot 1 meter 82, and a really elegant, graceful runner, isn't he? He really is a joy to watch. He's got that low arm carriage, which is very different to Kipchoge and to Bekele. Bekele is the shortest of the three. He's just 5'3", but perfectly packaged, you could say, is the Ethiopian. And you mentioned the finishing speed, and of course we all know what he achieved on the track, and maybe he's still got some of that left in him. And then in the middle, Kipchoge wearing the arm covers there, 5'6", 167. Still only 32, although that has raised a few eyebrows, I have to say. One or two people questioning whether his age really is 32. One or two people suggesting he may be a little bit older than that. Well, that's part of the chasing group. There's one of the Japanese.
We've got Sano, Guye, the two Japanese. I'm not sure which that is. I can't read him. You probably can. Is that Guye? Who is the lead Japanese runner? There's Shitara, also in the race. But already they will start to fade away from this. Now we're coming up to the first, well, we've got just over 4 kilometres. Well, the first check we will have at 5 kilometres as for the times. They're the fastest times established in Berlin. And incidentally, Bekele at 2:03:03. That was a bit of a comeback because he had injuries early on in the 2016 season and didn't get selected for the Olympic Games in Rio, but came back with 2:03:03 and beat Wilson Kipchoge. So, I mean, that was just, you know, that's my answer, or that's his answer to the selectors, I guess.
Yes, very much so. Just also worth reflecting briefly on the head-to-head, if you like, between these three. And the advantage perhaps that Kipchoge has is that he is the only one of the three who's beaten the other two. Twice he's beaten Bekele in marathons, and he's also beaten Kipsang on 2 occasions. And Bekele against Kipsang reads 1-0 to Bekele, and of course that was in the race here in Berlin last year.
Yes, indeed. The only man to have beaten Kipchoge in marathon running was in 2013 was Wilson Kipsang, and that took a world record to beat the man. And since then, as I said earlier, he's won 7 of his last 8, and including the Olympic Games by the biggest margin for 44 years, if I remember correctly. Very, very interesting articles in Let's Run in the United States. They've done brilliantly in putting forward the underpinning of this marathon. I've been reading all of they've put onto their sites, and a lot of good stuff has come through from them. And of course, it's coming up to 5 kilometres. Oh, look at that. They're 80 metres ahead of the world record schedule at the moment. 80 metres. So, but it's too early. It's too early to say yet. But of course, I think it was Shitara actually.
Shitara is the leading Japanese, yes, behind this group of 4. 45 on the back there. That's the, if you like, the unknown quantity. The new kid on the block, we could call him. Guye Adola, making his debut at the full marathon. And he's doing very well, Stuart, even in these early stages, you have to say, given the pace they're running at, to keep in touch with these 3. Yeah, well, Shitara, look at the gap now. I tell you, he set a Japanese half marathon record just a week ago, so how much that's taken out of his legs, we'll see. Here comes the 5 kilometre split for us. 14:25 for the first kilometre on that, so 14:28. And Kipchoge just taking that in the race proper. The pacemakers, I guess, will not have a transponder because that would confuse matters somewhat. Well, for those of you who want to keep tabs with, and we don't want to overstate this because I think we need to let the race unfold, but we will just make comparisons occasionally with the world record pace from Dennis Kimetto from 2014. And on that day, Dennis Kimetto went through the first 5K in 14:42. So at the early stage here, they are currently 12, 14 seconds inside world record pace. And that is quick.
Yeah. That's Vincent Kipruto in there as well, incidentally. He's wearing 52, but Kipruto, there's the overall split for each individual kilometre. 6 seconds, 7 seconds inside. It's very early, but it's interesting.
So the men going along very nicely indeed, just inside world record pace. Conditions almost perfect. How about the women? Well, here are the women approaching 5 kilometres, and there is Ayabe in the red vest for Kenya, who's just got a couple of metres on Beriso. There she is, wearing a F4, the 26-year-old. Very impressive in Prague earlier this year, winning in 2:21. Knocked almost 3 minutes off her lifetime best. And as you can see there, she's won her last 3 marathons.
Yep.
In Barcelona, Valencia, and up in Eldoret in the Rift Valley in Kenya. So it's an impressive start to her marathon career, and she, in many ways, could be the bigger of the threats to Gladys Chirono, who starts this race as favourite.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I mean, her best is 2:21.57, but she's certainly intent on improving on that. She has been improving right the way through. When you go to March, November and May, she's improved in each race from 2:25.26, 2:24.48 and 2:21.57 in those 3 races that Chris has just mentioned. So she's improving race by race. Important to get on board the liquid, the fluid. Absolutely. Doesn't matter if it's raining, doesn't matter about anything. You've got to take on the fluid.
Coached by her husband, incidentally, who will be here watching as well. And Chirono just coming up onto her left shoulder there. There are the splits at 5k. 16:40, that leading group going through the first 5 kilometres, and that is just outside at the moment the course record set in 2005 by Noguchi.
71 is Victor Ketienya of Kenya. He's in the yellow vest. He's pacing in the middle there, and they have pacemakers all the way through this marathon with the various groups, indicating exactly what their potential is. Kipruto, let me just mention Kipruto. There he is to the left of your shot. Well, silver medal in the World Championships in 2011. His first international appearance in, 2011 was 2:10.06. That was in those World Championships. That was his first international appearance. I hadn't seen him before then. His debut marathon was in Rheims in 2008. He ran 2:8.16. There are the world records set in Berlin. Look at that. Gabriel Selassie twice. Macau, of course, we've said he had a knee injury and had to withdraw from this race early on, winning the race in 2010 and 11, actually, but his record came in 2:11. Then Kipsang breaking the world record, then Kimetto. And so there's such a history here. But will it be rewritten today?
Well, I think the weather could play a part here. I think all the ingredients we mentioned at the top of the programme, we've certainly got the quality of pacemaker, that's for sure. We've got 3 outstanding world-class athletes, all in tip-top condition. We've got 2 more athletes in that group, in Kipruto and Adola, just to keep it interesting. And it's, although it's, as you can see, there is surface water on the road. It's actually not raining at the moment. It's certainly not cold. And the wind, which was threatening to perhaps scupper any chances of a world record, is not as strong as forecast.
You've probably got a glimpse of the flags above the buildings there just for a moment, but there's not a lot of movement in the leaves in the trees, as you can see. But when you talk about Kenenisa Bekele, the defending champion, remember he fell at the start of the Dubai Marathon in 2017. He suffered back, calf and hip injuries. And he had a long-term Achilles and back problems in 2016. He said he was 90% fit in that season, and I guess that's probably why he wasn't picked for the Olympic Games. But my goodness me, he came good a little bit later, didn't he?
Yes, he did. Just approaching the 7-kilometre mark and going past the Reichstag, one of the main attractions here in Berlin, with extra significance this weekend, of course, because today is the the day of the federal elections with Chancellor Angela Merkel going for a 4th successive term. So Germans will be out in force, not just for the marathon. I guess we could say there are 2 races happening today. One is a sporting event and one is a political one.
Very much so, yes. And lots happening in the political world in Europe at the moment. But this group now really pounding away from the rest of the field. And I was talking to Jos Hermans, who said that well, Bekele is very secretive in terms of his training. He said his training varies so much and it's very difficult to compare year on year. He changes all the time, and he decided actually he wasn't ready for the London World Championship Marathon, didn't put himself forward, but waited for this opportunity here because he clearly feels that he's got the world record in those legs, and on the basis of last year with that 2:3:03, then that's absolutely spot on, because that 6 seconds he was short. I mean, it's very, very close, and if he can do this today, but he does tend to run his own race. He doesn't worry if they go too fast. He'll stay back and then he'll come through. This is what happened last year, and Kipsang went away and it looked good, and then all of a sudden a man who we thought, well, has he got anything left? And the answer was yes, very much so.
Yeah, he's a notoriously good finisher. Maybe all those years on the track still having an impact. There are just some of the extraordinary statistics for the pre-race favourite there, Eliud Kipchoge, winning in London last year. And of course backing it up with the Olympic title as well. One of the things he really wanted. But the one thing he said, Stuart, before this race, he's got so many accomplishments on a wonderful CV, but the world record is the one thing he wants.
Well, I'll tell you what, when he won the world title over 5,000 metres in 2003, we saw him on the track. He was only 18, and he beat Bekele then, and Hikamel Garouge. So that were 2 big scalps he took in those early days, and my goodness, I don't think he's not run on the track since 2012, incidentally, when he clocked 12:55.34 for 5,000 metres. Failed to make the Kenyan Olympic team. So, you know, he had an off day in the trials. So just as we look at that yesterday, I tell you what, very, very impressed with the inline skaters yesterday in this early stage of the marathon. Just break away just for a moment. It was absolutely sensational, the speed at which they were going. In fact, overall, the leaders were skating at 26 miles an hour. Bart Swings always in this, ahead of Perla Paxti of Spain here, the Belgian ahead of the Spaniard here. And they were heading for 58, sub-60, 58 minutes and 42 seconds for Bart Swings, his 5th straight win in this race. Miles ahead of the rest, apart from Perla, of course, of Spain, who 58.48. The record still stands at 56.49, incidentally, set in 2009. But Bart Swings is the king and has been the king for the last 5 years. But very, very impressive. Look at the drafting going on, but they are powerful. I was very impressed, I must admit, and Chris and I stood by the course watching them go past, and it was an incredible thing. And the women, then you've got Arias and Barbel Roquia of Argentina, the 2 Argentinians coming through to win the women's race, and just over 66.35, 66.38. Roquia in 2nd place.
So back with this leading group, still no change there with Kipruto and Adola keeping the big 3 company. There is Wilson Kipsang. The rain has returned here. I mentioned it was heavily raining overnight, but they're still inside world record pace. There we are at 8 kilometres, just 7 seconds. It's going to be tough in these conditions, and if the rain continues to fall steadily, that could play an important part here, and it would in many ways, Stuart, be something of a shame, because Mark Milder, the race director here, has put together this wonderful, unprecedented lineup of the top 3 marathon runners in the world. It's never been done before. Brilliant chance to make a world record, and it would be such a shame if on the day it's the weather that scuppers it.
Yeah, it would be a shame, because that rain can get into their vests and cool them down. That it could be uncomfortable, and let's hope that it abates a bit. You can see the look on her face there. That's not the grimace of pain. That's a grimace of water descending upon them, and you can see the rain now. And Kipsang looks really wet, doesn't he? And they're all looking a little bit dishevelled in the early part of this race as the rain comes down. It's so unfortunate, really. It's the one ingredient we hope for. Yesterday was okay, tomorrow's going to be okay, but on the day when the big names all come together to do battle and to attempt a record that is a terrific record under 2 hours and 3 minutes, it's such a shame. We still may be in that region of records. We may well. We'll soon see. We'll soon see as they go through halfway what we've got in store, really. We've got to wait till then to see what's happening up front. You can see them splashing through the water now. And just having a look once again at the great man, Kenenisa Bekele. Won the Paris Marathon. That was his debut marathon at 2:05:04. A terrific debut in Paris. But winner last year, 2:03:03, taking on board the fluid that's so essential here.
Yeah, he's been very busy in the last few weeks, we understand, looking after his business interests as well as preparing physically for this race. He owns the Kenenisa Hotel just outside Addis Ababa, and has got a lot of business interests there, as many of these runners have. Wilson Kipsang, of course, as well, has got his own resort in E10, which is the mecca, if you like, of high-altitude running in the Great Rift Valley. These are millionaires, Stuart. These are very wealthy young men, and deservedly so, given what they've achieved on the road and on the track.
And when you talk about the track and you look at Bekele, 3 Olympic gold medals, 10,000 in 2004, in 2008 winning the 5 and the 10, 16 world titles on the track and on the country. He's got 20 gold medals in all in this career. I mean, such a career. And to translate from the track to the country, to the roads, in the way that he's done it, makes him one of the greats. It really does. And along with Kipchoge, great in a slightly different sense, but both of them have achieved so much in their careers, and there's still some more to come, particularly, I think, from Bekele, because for me, I think he has a real chance of being the overall champion, because how long can Eliud Kipchoge keep going at the rate that he's going? To win his 7 of his last 8, and to win the Olympic title by the biggest margin for 44 years, about 70 seconds if I remember correctly, and to come here with such confidence, to ask for 500-meter splits after 2 kilometers, so that he knows whether he's on schedule or not. And that's the detail we've never seen before. You mentioned it early on. It's unprecedented.
It is. Of course, we should make the point that not only is he getting that information, but given where his competitors are running, they're also getting that information. They can look up just as much as he can on the lead vehicle, and they can get that information as well. So it's not unique to him, and that will be useful information to them as well. But just going back to Bekele, it's interesting for many people. He's the greatest ever, the most complete distance runner, as you mentioned, on track, on country, and on the road. We're approaching the 10K mark, so we'll be looking very, very keenly on where they are on world record pace. Just 100 metres to go till we get that 10-kilometre split. The mark we're looking for in terms of Kimeto's world record pace in 2014 in very different conditions was 29:24, and they are going to be inside it. They're still inside it, Stuart.
Yeah, remember, all of our comments right the way through this will be on an even pace. But Kipsang 29:04 at 10K, and 10K 29:04. That's well, that is what,
20 seconds inside.
Yeah, it's 20 seconds, and well, the conditions are not affecting them noticeably at the moment, or you can see the splashing around. I'm not sure how heavy that rain is out there, actually. But there's the biggest margin inside was 10 seconds, 8 seconds, 10, and so forth. So they've come back at 10, look, only 4 seconds inside. So the conditions probably playing a little bit of a part in the outcome of this in the early stages. But this is not going to evolve until very much into the second half of the race, I fancy. These three are so good.
They are. Well, normal convention suggests that the racing really starts at 30 kilometres. That's when the handbrake comes off, and and everything goes. It's just a question of clipping off these kilometres metronomically. They'll have been out on their training runs. Let's not forget that the conditions that these elite athletes will have been training in, wherever they are, whether that's up in the Great Rift Valley in Kenya or in the hills around Addis Ababa in the case of Kenenisa Bekele, they'll be dry. They'll have been training at altitude in very warm conditions. And just to give you an idea, actually, on Kipchoge, he's kept his similar training routine. There is Wilson Kipsang, who does his own thing. He's self-coached, and he likes to base himself in and around his house in Iten. That's up at around 8,000 meters. I've had the great fortune of going up there and actually running myself, and I can tell you, when you're running, even just having a jog at that sort of altitude, you really feel it. So these guys who've prepared well, hard at that altitude, will come down to sea level in a place like Berlin, and they will be in such tip-top condition. The benefits of those extra red blood cells will be felt.
More phases of the masses now getting underway with their personal stopwatches. They'll have come from offices. There'll be athletes in the leading groups and phases, and there'll be those who are running a marathon for the first time, those who fly from all over the world, 137 nations, just to repeat that statistic, and they will enjoy here. They will have prepared. Some will not have prepared well enough, and they will find out later on at around about 21 miles that perhaps they should have done a little bit more. This is the evolution of the number of people from 1974, just 286 to 43,852. How Mark Milner's built this marathon to be one of the great marathons. It is one of the majors, of course, and the masses enjoy these moments. They'll be boasting in the offices on Monday morning, I would think, tomorrow morning, but they did personal best, because for pretty well everyone except these guys and girls, then, well, it'll be about personal best.
Yes, it will. There's the leading women's group, and we can see that Veriso there, centre of picture, wearing F3.
And that's Aga wearing F7 there. She's been around a while too, Ruti Aga. Just looking at her performance, she was last year. She was here. She ran 2:24.41 last year. She's got a best half marathon of 68.07. That was in Houston, in Texas, last year. So she's improving all the way. She was third in Berlin last year, and a lifetime best at 2:24.41. So she's looking for something a little bit more here, and all the principals really are there. Gülüm Tolesa also there as well. Her Berlin and World Majors Marathon first appearance. You can see her in that red and blue strip in the middle of that group. 33 minutes roughly at 10 kilometers there for the women. So,
well, they're outside the course record pace, Stuart. Not by much, but they are outside course record, and I think we can see perhaps that the conditions are playing their part here.
Yeah, I was just looking at that 33:12. Yeah, that's just on about 2 hours 20 pace at this stage for the women.
We have, by the wonders of science in front of us, a wonderful piece of kit that allows us to project forward. And again, let's stress caution here, but we are only 11.5 kilometers in. But according to our computer, the predicted finish time on current pace, even pace, would be 2:02.34. which will be inside world record pace by about 23 seconds. A long way to go, though.
And I'm just looking here at Adola. Well, he's giving it a go, isn't he? When you've run 15 sub 60 for a half marathon, give it a go. And look at Bekele right on the back of that group there. And one shouldn't worry about that, because he does that. He drops away and then he comes back in. They're all looking pretty comfortable. Kipsang on the left looking really comfortable at this stage. But Kipchoge, look at Bekele just tagging on to the back of Kipchoge there. A man who, they know each other so well. But Kipchoge's only been beaten once in his marathon career. I mean, that's some credential when you talk about all the majors and what he's achieved. He's so consistent, that's the thing.
And also, Stuart, you have to say the experiment in Monza, which I know left a little bit of a nasty taste in the mouth of some people, perhaps the purists, because they saw it was a rather commercial exercise, a lab test, many people called it. But if you put that to one side, the confidence that Kipchoge will have gained by knowing that he has physically run just outside 2 hours would be enormous. There we are. There's the split at 12 kilometres.
They're dead on even pace now, aren't they? On even pace, they're dead on the same schedule as Kipchoge in 2014. Well, on an even pace, that is.
Exactly. We should keep stressing that.
Yeah.
Look at the style there of Kipsang on the left of the picture there, with that low arm carriage that I was talking about. Really is a very graceful runner. Kipruto there.
Well, there are those who take things very seriously. There are those who enjoy dressing up. There's all sorts of things. I remember interviewing on the London Marathon once, and a parrot came up to me and said, hello, I'm a parrot. I said, yes, I can see that. And the following year he came up, a dragon came up to me and he said, you don't recognize me, do you? I was the parrot last year.
Very good.
It's a wonderful, wonderful festival, not only today, but over the whole weekend here, and it really is magnificent. 58 or so thousand competitors, taking all of the hand bikers, the inline skaters, the marathon runners. There's so much to celebrate on this weekend, there really is.
Yes, and also we'll be bringing you just a glimpse of some of the mini race. We had children of very young ages running shorter distances yesterday. We'll bring you that during the course of the programme this morning. But you're absolutely right, it really is an international festival of running. And the popularity of mass participation road racing doesn't show any signs of slowing down. All over the world they come, 137 nations represented here in Berlin, and Mark Milder and his team do a brilliant job. Well, approaching 13 kilometres, they're now heading south. They've just crossed over the Spree, the main river here in Berlin, and they're heading south.
Wonderful moments, aren't they? And yet, at the other end, a very serious undertaking between the greatest and a debutante on the right of your shot, a man who's come here never having run a marathon before. He's way beyond 13 kilometres with the very best that the world can offer. There's 13-kilometre mark for you. 3 minutes. That is much slower at 3 minutes, so that gives you some indication that they have slowed a little.
Yeah, I think the feeling amongst some of the experts here who've analysed this, as Stuart mentioned, the excellent work done by Let's Run and the team over there, the feeling is perhaps that the experiment in Monza that we've referred to a couple of times may have just got people a little bit carried away. Let's not forget that even apart from the weather conditions here, breaking a world record is such a difficult thing to do, and the closer that world record gets to 2 hours, that magic 2-hour mark, the closer it gets, the harder it gets to eat even the odd few seconds off. So we shouldn't get too carried away about what it will take to get a new world record today. Of course, we're all fans of the sport. We hope there will be a new world record, but we can't take it as happening for granted.
I think what we have also, Chris, is with the 3 best marathon runners in the world, we'll soon find out who is the best marathon runner in the world on this particular day. And when they've all come together in a major for the first time on the fastest course of the majors, well, we'll see. But it will be interesting to see what happens in this next 5K, because whether they'll certainly have the information on the vehicle in front as to where they're at, whether they'll respond to that, that's for sure.
Well, there's the leading women, and they're still all in there. All the main big names are in there. Chirono is in there, Beriso, the Ethiopian, Ayabe. Let's keep an eye also on Aga as well, Ruta Aga from Ethiopia. East Africa, of course, as we expected, are dominating there. And they're through 10 kilometres, approaching 12.5 kilometres now. And they're just going to approach the River Shpe in the next kilometre or so. There is F7, that is Aga, the Ethiopian. The rain has abated a little bit, so the road's drying out, and you can see there, if you look carefully, the blue line. That's the famous blue line, isn't it, Stuart, that marks the shortest way round. That's meticulously measured and painted all the way round, all 42.2 kilometres on the tarmac of the streets of Berlin. And each of these runners will be looking to hug that line, the blue line, as closely as possible.
Well, Chirono there, who's obviously the third fastest time on this course, winner in 2015, just on the tail there of Ayebe, Valerie Ayebe, wearing F4, but certainly this young woman so close to the championship record. I mentioned earlier that Mikitenko actually has got the second fastest time overall in this over the years. I think it was in 2008 when she ran 2:19.19, but Chirono 2:19.25, the third fastest in 2015. But remember Noguchi, we've mentioned it several times now, 2:19.12 is the target, and it'll be very interesting to see how it unfolds, won't it, in the final stages here.
We will be keeping in touch periodically with the wheelchair race, which set before the main mass start. I'll tell you that Marcel Hoog is leading the way, the defending champion in the men's race, and Manuela Scher in the women's race is leading the way there.
Ruta Aga rather, third last year. Got a best 10K, incidentally, but that was some years ago now, just over 31.5 minutes. A season's best marathon was 2:33.26. That was Boston, 17th of April. Half marathon 70:02, so not quite the credentials that might well see her winning this race, but the men certainly getting a lot of support from the huge crowd around those parts of the course on this city course. Hand bikers, there are all sorts of events going on at the same time. I saw a relay. Now look at this, 5 seconds down now on an even pace, but that shouldn't be totally significant actually.
No, it's close enough for things to change there. Kipchoge looks very determined, doesn't he? We had a quick word actually with one of our colleagues who was in the press conference yesterday, who had the good fortune to interview the top three. Kipchoge, he said, looked rather tired and drawn, didn't he? And said he yawned, what, 3 times in 2 minutes. Yeah. Should we read anything into that, Stuart?
Probably not.
Good night's sleep would sort that out.
Yeah, indeed. I think he knows his business. This man is, he's not a novice. He knows what he's doing. And I'm interested in Adola on the left side there to see how long he can stay with this. Look at this, the warm-up. Wonderful celebrations at the start, waiting to get underway.
Well, this is a repeat of what's known as the Icelandic hand clap, isn't it, from the European Football Championships last year. Let's just, well, it's a shame we couldn't stay with that, because it just starts very slowly and then rhythmically gets louder and louder and louder. It's a wonderful way of whipping up the enthusiasm.
43, 44 at 15K. That's exactly on 2:3:05 schedule. So they're there or thereabouts. Let's not. It'll be very interesting to see who takes on. Yeah, the predicted time is 2:3:02 officially. My unofficial chart was 2:3:05. It doesn't matter. That's a couple of seconds at this stage, but beyond 15 kilometres now. 42-kilometre race for newcomers to this event, the marathon. When you consider, it's worth repeating that each kilometre on an even pace, 2:55, a mile 4:42, running around 20 kilometres an hour for the whole of 42 kilometres is quite phenomenal. The physicality and also the mental strength of marathon runners is to be admired, isn't it?
Well, Stuart, I can tell you from personal experience, I did a documentary a few years ago on the sub-2-hour marathon, what it would take, and as part of that, they put me on a treadmill up at Loughborough in the UK at the International Sports Academy there, and I was running at sub-2-hour marathon pace for about 30 seconds, and I nearly fell off the back of the treadmill. And your average treadmill, and people watching at home will perhaps use treadmills, and the average treadmill doesn't go any quicker than 5 minutes per mile. So these guys are running much more quickly, as we see Kipsang, the former world record holder.
Yeah, he's got the fastest marathon of the season thus far. Has Kipsang 2:3:58 in Tokyo on the 26th of February. Now, he's had more time to recover than Kipchoge because of the Monza event. There are one or two people asking how much that would take out of his legs, and we'll see. So there has been a recovery difference there, and it is significant.
Well, here we go. There's
Brandenburg Gate.
The Brandenburg Gate is on the move. There we go. What a contrast that is. Left of picture, the cream of the cream, the crème de la crème of men's marathon running, and on the right we have a foam Brandenburg Gate making its way along the course.
And all ages too,
of course,
competing here. And early stages smiles, later grimaces.
Yes.
And beyond that, hurt.
Well, still smiling at this early stage. It'll be hurting tomorrow morning.
I've seen people come past me in London at 21 kilometres wishing that they'd stayed home.
Everybody with a story to tell. Many people running for hugely personal, often emotional reasons.
And charitable reasons too.
Yes. And still they come. There you can see the pacing of 4:15 there. That signifies the pace at which those people in that particular group will be running at. And they do a great job, do the mass pacemakers.
Yeah, for newcomers, the athletes who you see on your screen now, they go off in phases and those phases relate to their potential in terms of the times they're likely to achieve, so that the race itself develops in a natural way, and they're not people overtaking people in different waves. It's the way it's done these days. No one looks in difficulty. Where's Bekele? Oh, he's there. He's on the right. I was just worried for a moment. I couldn't see him, but there he is, tucked in behind Kipchoge.
Yep.
And actually, Kipchoge, Wilson Kipsang, we mentioned him earlier. You know, he's the first man in history to run back-to-back sub-2:4s. That was Berlin in 2016. Was second with 2:3:13, and that was better than the previous world record, incidentally. And Tokyo this year with his 2:3:58. So he's run back-to-back sub-4. So. And he's got good rest periods in between him, so he's in good form.
He's also, Stuart, away from the road. He's been very busy. He actually stood earlier this year for a place in the Kenyan Parliament. He's got aspirations to become a politician, a little bit like Haile Gebrselassie, the great Haile Gebrselassie, who set 2 world records on this course. So Kipsang, very charismatic individual, a very bright guy, was a former police officer in the Kenyan police force. He did a university degree in criminology, and he does spend a lot of time helping young athletes, talented athletes, but who have got financial problems, who are just not as lucky as him, helping them to nurture their talent in and around E10.
Yeah, and
so he has a very varied lifestyle.
I don't know whether you mentioned that. He owns a 37-room hotel called the Kilo Resort Centre on the road between Eldoret and Eton. He's a businessman in every sense, as well as a politician, that's for sure.
He is indeed.
He came from a farmer's family, grew up around 50k from Eton. He's a man, he started running the year Paul Tergat broke the world record. I had the pleasure of commentating with Paul Tergat in Mombasa in the World Cross Country Championships some years ago now, and really very, very articulate Paul Tergat. Not only a fine runner, a magnificent runner, but did some fine appraisals. If we go back to the women.
Yeah, the women, no major moves here. All the leading names there. F3 on the back is Beriso as they go through 15 kilometres. There we are, 49.33 for 15 kilometres. So they're about 11 seconds outside the course record. We are going to keep an eye on that.
Yeah.
The course record which I think you mentioned, Stuart, at the top of the programme, is due to be beaten, isn't it? It's stood since 2005.
Yeah, I mean, they're inside 220 at the moment on that particular time, and just about inside 220, about 2:19.17, my rough appraisal of that. Yeah, 2:19.23 is the computer appraisal, so we're not too far away. They're just 11 seconds outside the record as it stands at the moment, at 2:19.12. So there's a chance, still a chance.
Yeah, one or two momentary pieces of interference on the pictures. We apologise for that, but I think it just confirms that the weather conditions above Berlin. If you weren't with us earlier on, no helicopters allowed to take off as things stand. We're hoping that there will be a break in the weather to bring you some lovely aerial shots, but at the moment the conditions simply don't permit the helicopters to take off. So the men's elite still producing a famous five, going shoulder to shoulder. Well, I mentioned earlier on that this festival of running includes all age groups, and here are the highlights from what's called the Bambini Run. There are 4 groups of youngsters. They were out there yesterday. The first 2 groups between 0 and 4 years old and 5 and 6, they run a little course of 400 metres. And then the slightly older children, the 7 and 8-year-olds and the 9 and 10-year-olds, run 800 metres. And we were out, Stuart and I, yesterday watching them, and my word, they were enjoying themselves. Wonderful. And these are the marathon runners potentially of the future. And it was a great sight to see.
Well, this is the present, and there may be a man of the future in there as well. Adola, wearing 45, is in that dark grey or grey vest at the back. Kipsang on the left. In the middle is Kipchoge. What a fine athlete on the track he was, and to come off the track and to go into marathon running as he has is quite incredible. Bekele, a similar route really, but Bekele achieved a great deal more on the track than did Kipchoge. There we've got the 12th kilometre, I think, for the masses. It's they're 6 kilometres behind the leading group. At 12 kilometres, then they are round about in the Lichtenberger Strasse or thereabouts, I think, Chris, just looking at the map on the 12th kilometre.
Yep, going around Strausberger Platz, heading south, and they'll be crossing the river, the Spree, just before the 13-kilometre mark. So they're around 6 kilometres back from the elite group, and we're back with them. The famous 5, look at that, what a shot that is. The top 3 we've been talking about all day. That is Kipchoge, Bekele and Kipsang on the left of picture, and joined still, Stuart, for me impressively, by Adola, just being obscured there by the pacemaker second left of picture, and Kipruto on the extreme right.
Yes, it's
well.
Very interesting that Kipruto has got a 2:5:13 to his credit back in 2010. He was second in Rotterdam in 2011. He's got 3 performances of 2:5 inside 2:6. His debut, as I said, was 2:8 in Riem in 2008. He's been around quite a while. He was, as I said earlier, the silver medalist at the World Championships in Daegu in 2011. Since then, his victory in Frankfurt, the Frankfurt Marathon in 2013 with 2:6 has been his best performance. So he hasn't really been on song since then, so he will expect or hope to do a little bit better. He is right on the right of your shot, but hope to do a little better on this occasion. Deep in concentration, these men. Little glances occasionally from side to side, but Bekele has been tracking Kipchoge, almost drafting, not quite, behind him. He knows where the danger lies. He knows that to defend his title here and to perform at world record standard, he's going to have to stay around Kipchoge for as long as possible.
Yeah, the concentration etched on Eliud Kipchoge's face there. There he is with the white arm supports. Bekele, well, we've said it already, just likes to do his own thing. He looks to be in a little world of his own. He's not getting too fazed by what anybody else is doing. There is Guye Adola. Yeah. Very impressive.
Yep, he's an Ethiopian. He's, as we've said, he's in territory he's never been in before. Well, he is up to halfway, but it's territory beyond that he's never been in before. It's his first ever marathon. That's his debut marathon. So when he's come here with a sub-60, 59.21, then really he is looking to obviously go to the full distance now and move on a bit. But this is good pacemaking at the moment between the three pacemakers. Let's mention them once again. Jeffrey Rono, number 62, who paced Dennis Kimetto to 30k in his world record race. And then Gideon Kipchoge, he's a 2:5:51 marathon runner himself. He was 6th in the World Championships in London, was Kipchoge, so they've taken the 6th placer as a pacemaker. Ran 2:10 there, behind, of course, the man who is probably the favourite here in Kipchoge. And then Sami Kitwara, the other Kenyan, 2:4:28 his best. So they've got three incredibly talented pacemakers here. And as I said earlier, they've been working hard to get this pace right.
So the leading man approaching 20 kilometres, just short of the halfway point. Will get you that 20-kilometre split in a few moments' time. Meanwhile, the festival of running continues on the right of picture there, and this is the start. These are people who haven't even crossed the start line yet, but the atmosphere, as you can sense, I hope, absolutely superb. They're really going to have a great day.
I have to say that these are enjoyable moments, but that will perhaps change a little as they get on their way. Still waiting to get underway, as their potential times not as quick as those who have gone off at the start of the masses. We're talking about 4 or 5 hour marathon runners here, probably beyond 5 hours. Yes. The Scots are here. Bye. Mexico, wonderful. Salvador. Incidentally, I really ought to point out, we should have done this right at the start. We mentioned the numbers of the pacemakers, but the pacemakers in the black and white vertical stripes for newcomers to this event. So the athletes that we're really focusing on are in the white tops, except for Kipsang, of course, in the very deep maroon top in the center of that group on the right, and Adola in that grey top behind one of the leading men, number 52 there. Just looking at that, oh, that's Kipruto dropping off.
Yeah,
Kipruto's just finding it a little bit tough here.
Well, here we are at 20 kilometres, Stuart. Let's get an update. 58.18 through 20 kilometres.
2:3:05 or thereabouts is the prediction. Well, they've got 2:2:59 on computer. I'm just slightly outside of that on my informal from my split time chart in front of me.
Well, they'll be certainly shortly going through halfway, and I think we can say that they've actually made up a little bit of time in that last 5 kilometre chunk.
Yeah.
And are just now 2 seconds. You can see there on the screen, just literally 2 seconds. So we can say, as near as damn it, they are still on world record pace. So we'll come back to the men very shortly when they go through halfway.
Yes, indeed. And there's Anahana. You mentioned earlier on, Chris, that she's not in the 2:26 form that we remember, of course, but she is looking for a European qualifying time, which she's got to run around about 2:32, inside 2:32. So there is a target for her here on this occasion. Just there she is, F10, just at the head of that little group of men there. So certainly not going to mix it with the Kenyans and Ethiopians at the front of this women's marathon, but nevertheless,
Well, Kipruto there, we were just slightly concerned that he may have dropped off the pace as they hit 20 kilometres, but he seems to be back in that leading group again. And they will be, in the next few minutes, going through halfway. And that's significant, Stuart, isn't it? Because the talk of going through in 60-45, 60-50, which is what Kipchoge was talking about, well, we will see very shortly how close to that mark he is.
We certainly will. And that, well, the pace is very, very respectable. I mean, you can see how far they are ahead of the rest, and you can see on that vehicle in front, there are times being indicated, and those 500 splits, certainly for Kipchoge, whether the others are using them, I have no idea, but they're all of the time there, so they know when they're going a little slower, and I mean, they know the event well, they know what pace they're going at, but those additional help, is significant. But I tell you what, they're coming up to 21 kilometres. I tell you what, this is quick. Very, very quick. See how marathons are run in very different ways. The Kimetto race was a negative split, 61-45, and just coming up to 21 kilometres. Here we go. Halfway. Well, that's 2:53 for that last one. That's quicker. So the average of 2:55 would give them the world record or thereabouts. That certainly coming up to halfway, it's going to be roughly the same. It's just a little bit quicker than Kimetto, I think. Let's just see. Yeah, there we go.
61:29.
Yeah. So 61:44 was Kimetto, and then he ran 61:11. So we're going to see probably, you could still see a negative split here.
Well, would you believe it? Our computer says that the predicted finish time on even pacing would be exactly the same as the current world record, 2:02:57. So Dennis Kimetto's record, set here in 2014, on current pace, would be matched by this leading group. We still have 5 of the big names there, including, of course, the big 3, as we've called them, in there. And I think once we get to the 30-kilometre mark, Stuart, then we can start getting things interesting. The racing will start.
Well, certainly in London, Kipchoge set a new world best for 30 kilometres. And I have to say, between 30 and 35 kilometres, Kimetto ran 14 minutes 10 in the midst of that. So that was, he came down from the previous kilometre, 5 kilometres in 14:29, then went 14:10, then went back to 14:43 at 40k. So that's why we are looking at even pace, because it's very difficult to compare individuals. But there is, we've said it several times, won 7 out of 8, winner in 2015, 2:04, and that's when he had all his shoe insoles falling all over the place, I think, if I remember correctly, under both feet. It was quite astonishing.
It was extraordinary. Yeah, the insole. Can you imagine running at that speed for that length of time with your insoles flapping around? And he didn't seem to be perturbed about it at all. He still ran 2:04 from memory. That was an extraordinary performance by Kipchoge.
Well, Adola's...
sorry, Stuart.
No, I was just going to say, Adola, just again, he's still there. Remember, he's only been to half marathon thus far. This is new territory.
Yep.
And the left of the picture in that grey-coloured vest, this man is in new territory now. Is he going to be a new find? It's his first ever marathon, and he's up with the very, very best in the world. Whether he'll pay for that, well, who knows?
Well, it's fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah.
Kipsang, just looking at body language, I know it's difficult to read too much into facial expressions, but Kipsang, for me, just a few minutes ago, looked to be not struggling, but not entirely at ease. But he looks to be back in business now, and he looks as though he's got his game face on. Bekele, don't read too much into the fact that he's at the back. He's looking in his watch all the time. That's a 2:56 kilometre, the last one, so slightly slower than the previous one.
Yeah, but it's very quick. I mean, that's excellent running. And they've got the information from the car in front. And 60 and 61, that's Kipchoge and Kipkeita, the 2 pacemakers there. We've lost 1 pacemaker. And so it looks like Jeffrey Rono is gone now from the leading group. So he's done his bit to half marathon. Now it's down to Kipkeita and Kitwara.
Well, look at this, Stuart.
Oh,
Is this significant? Bekele, just as we said, we shouldn't read too much into the fact that he's dropping off. Well, that could be significant. That is a gap. There's no doubt about that, Stuart. That is a definite gap there. And is this the first sign of this pace, this grueling, punishing pace, starting to take its toll?
Well, except that he did say that if it was too fast for him, he would hang back. He wasn't going to go with it. But ahead of him, he's got some real powerhouses. He certainly has. I mean, we've seen it Kipsang before, but Kipchoge is a different quantity. If you drop away too far and you're running on your own, then you're at a real disadvantage here. He is inconsistent, but let's not read too much into this at the moment. Athletes do go through bad patches. They do go through patches where things are not quite right, and then they come back. And we've seen Bekele come back to the pack, and I'm not going to judge him yet.
No, I think you're right to exercise caution. We saw it in Berlin last year, didn't we? Kipsang moved ahead, and eventually it was Bekele who won the race. We saw it in London earlier this year with, on that occasion, Daniel Wanjiru winning through. But Bekele at one stage was way back, but clawed himself back into the race. He had problems on that occasion in April with his shoe. And, yeah, I think you're right not to discount Bekele at this stage.
Aga, that's 20 kilometres, 66.05. I reckon that's about 2:20, 2:19, 25, something like that. But
yeah, the course record looks safe at the moment.
Yeah. We'll just check on that for you in a moment. But Bekele, now look, that's deceptive. He's quite a way back now, but we'll see. We'll see whether he's going to come back to this. I remember last year, but this is a bit early to be dropping this far back. But he did say at the beginning, before the race, I'm not going to go. I'm going to go with what I know. And we'll see what happens in the latter stages. Once we get to 30 kilometres, we'll certainly know what the score is.
Problem for Bekele, though, Stuart, of course, is stating the obvious, but such is the calibre of the guys in front of him that the bigger that gap gets, even Bekele with his strong finish, it'll be a lot to make up.
Interesting, had a little look at his watch. He's carrying a watch there, and he's had a little look at the watch, and he'll either be happy or he'll be unhappy with that. He'll either make a little bit of a surge, slowly but surely, or not.
Just a little glance back there from Kipsang just to check, and that'll be... Look at that. That's quite a gap, even allowing for foreshortening on the pictures.
Yeah, they're round about the Rathaus Schöneberg coming up, I think, at that part of the course. Look at this, Adola's there.
He's looking very fresh, isn't he?
He does look good, doesn't he? I was interested in him right from the start, because I always think when someone's gone inside very close to 59 minutes for the half, then they've never done a marathon before, then they've got real talent. But whether he can keep this going for the second half, well, I've no idea. We'll soon see.
Incidentally, just going back to the women on 20k time, they're predicted to finish in 2:19.24. Yeah. That's about 12 seconds outside the course record.
They're dead on world record schedule, look, on that 23 kilometres. Dead on, men. So this is looking very good. Kipsang's looking good now, then. Let's see how far he's behind. That's not significant, but it's more difficult. In no man's land, you're on your own. You've not got the pacemaker there. You've got to run it yourself. But Bekele has got the talent that could bring him back to this group, but he's got to do it gradually, that's for sure.
Women approaching the halfway stage. You can see just in front of the lead car there, the balloons going over the road, the blue balloons, and that is the halfway stage. But we've got Chirono in there, F2 to the right of picture. F3 is Beriso, the Ethiopian.
Ah, yes, and there on the far side, Ayebi, look, is just on the right, just behind, on the far side of this group, the red top. There she is, and the others have come past her now. So there are three. She's in fourth place now, Ayebi, but there are four of them together, the four principals that we expected to be there. They're still there, and there is still a chance if there's a real race on in the final stages. There's a real chance that they could still attack that record. There's Rutiaga, Bereso, Cherono and Ayebi, as we said, they're all there.
Yeah, 69.40 going through halfway, and that's 21 seconds off course record pace. So work to do. It'll have to be a negative split to get the course record. Cherono fancied her chances of that, but Noguchi, wherever she is in the world, Mizuki Noguchi from Japan, will be watching this, I'm sure, with interest, and will be feeling pretty confident that her course record, as things stand, is looking good to be intact.
Well, the defending champion at the moment is running his own race. He's a fair way back on Kipsang, Kipchoge, Adola, the newcomer. Is there well, there's a new kid on the block, that's for sure. And well, Kipsang still looks comfortable. A little look at some shoes. There are no insoles coming out, I hope. That's Wilson Kipsang on the near side. Dola is there.
These are important parts of the race.
That looks like... Is that Kipruto there? Kipchoge is there, certainly. Is that Kipruto under there?
Yeah, Kipruto at the back there.
Kipruto's just hung on, hasn't he? He looks as though he might have been falling off the back of that.
These pictures, though, are highly deceptive with the foreshortening. Looks as though Bekele is not too far away, but actually that gap, I think, is getting bigger and bigger.
Yeah,
that's the view from the man himself, and this is starting, I think, again, we should still exercise a bit of caution. A lot can happen still. There's plenty of racing to go. Bekele is notorious for coming back strongly in the latter stages.
Remember, we've got 42 kilometres is the total journey. Still the two pacemakers, Sami Kitwara and Gideon Kipkita. Both of them capable of around 2:05 for a full marathon. Oh, Kipsang looks comfortable. Kipchoge looks comfortable. Adola looks pretty good, doesn't he, at this stage? Looks full of confidence. I think he was trying to get a drink there and didn't get one. I thought he was looking across, having a little look. Everyone else has got their drink, and I think this man has missed out there. It may be raining, but you've got to keep the liquid on board.
Kipsang looks good, doesn't he, in terms of body language. Looks very, very comfortable indeed. Kipchoge looks as though he's got his game face on, but I agree with you, Stuart. Adola looking very comfortable, and if anybody, you would have to say, if your money was on anybody to drop off next, it would be Kipruto.
1:12.50, 72.50 at 25 kilometres. Well, that's looking good to me. I think they're around about 2:2, just under the world record schedule at the moment, just on that informal look. 2:2.55 now, so they are running very, very strongly indeed. And Bekele is not there, and I tell you, with the pace these guys are going, the only one that I would well, there are two there that I'd be concerned about, Kipruto and Adola, whether they can actually sustain this. But look at that, right on schedule, there or thereabouts, couple of seconds or so for the world record. One thing's for sure, we're going to get a very, very fast marathon here, as always.
Well, this sets it up beautifully. Unfortunately, as things stand, we haven't got all three of the main names intact, with Bekele dropping off, as we've been saying. But if we can get as many of these guys to 30k, even 35k, and then the racing starts, and then the time could really be under threat. The world record time, just to remind you, 2:02.57, the fastest time in the world over the marathon distance, held by Dennis Kimetto. Kimetto, we should say, we haven't mentioned why he's not here. He's actually racing in Chicago next month, so he's opted for an autumn marathon in Chicago.
Well, talking about Adola again, he's born in the Oromia region of Ethiopia, began training with Gianni Demadonna's group, came to prominence, in 2014, first high-level race, Marrakesh. That was the half marathon in January in 2014. He won that with a best of 61.26, and he then placed fourth in that Ethiopian half marathon championships. He's come on well. His international debut followed, and he was Ethiopia's best performance, incidentally, in the World Half Marathon Championships in 2014. So he knows about competition, that's for sure. But 59, I said 59.21 his best, but I've got him down for 59.06. I reckon 59.06. He ran 59.21. Let me correct myself there. In the half marathon championships, he's done better than that, 59.06 in New Delhi in November 2014. So just a little bit of correction there on the statistics. Very close to 59. But he's had, three performances inside the hour. And all of those have come of late. 2:54. That's a very, very good last kilometre. Well, just look at this. I'm now beginning to think Bekele may not be able to get back to this group, but he's way, way down. I think we can have a look at what's happened in the handbikes. They've finished now, the handbikes, won by Plat Jetser of the Netherlands, and 1 hour, 3 minutes and 45 seconds. So that's pretty tough. 1:3:45. And the second place, Vico Merklein, was 4 minutes and 27 seconds behind. Third place was Gert Schipper of the Netherlands, 1 hour 8:12. So this little group here very close to each other, ahead of Michael Jorgensen of Denmark at 1:8:13. So with the three of them in very close proximity, but a very, very clear win by Plat of the Netherlands. A very, very fine performance indeed. Well done to him. And they're finished now. And so we're back now to the big race. And my goodness me, Kipruto looking full of running again, having a little look across. Adola having a look across. Who's that stopped with a foot on the side? Who was that? Oh no, it was one of the pacemakers. Thank goodness for that. I thought one of the principals had stopped. One of the pacemakers there. So we're left now with
Sami Kitwara.
Kitwara, the number 60, and it's Sami. Yes, it's Sami Kitwara. He's got a best of 2:4:28 when you're on marathon running. So he's the man that's got the job of taking them through to 30k, I would think. And they all look good, don't they?
Well, this is it. Down to one pacemaker to take them through. Constantly checking their watches.
Yeah, this is the business end now. It's beginning to emerge, and I don't think this is going to be Bekele's day, having said that now, because these look full of running, and they're still running around about 2:54, 2:55 kilometres, and we can have a look at that, actually. And the schedule now is 2:55, just inside the world best. I'm just looking at... They started off with a 2:51, 2:52, 2:54, 2:56, right the way through 2:57 at 8 kilometres, and then 3 minutes at 12 kilometres. That was the slow one. Another 3 at 13 kilometres. Then back to 2:55, 2:52, 2:55, 2:58, 2:54, and down. And we've got a 2:39, the 22nd kilometre, 2:39. Well, that did some damage, and that may well be the reason why Bekele has found it a little bit tough indeed.
That was the injection of pace, Stuart. I think that's exactly right. It's exactly on 22 kilometres when Bekele dropped back, and there he is. And I can tell you that is a very lonely existence there. But Bekele will keep going unless he's got something seriously wrong with him. He won't give up the ghost just yet, but that gap is getting bigger and bigger.
Well, look at this, Kipruto and Adola. How dare he? I mean, that's fantastic running. Kipsang on the right in the maroon vest. Kipchoge, the top marathon man in the world. Only been beaten once, and it took the world record to beat him. It was the guy in the maroon vest that did it.
Just getting confirmation at 25 kilometres. The gap now, 21 seconds Kenenisa Bekele is adrift, and that is a huge, huge margin.
Yes, it is, that's for sure. Well, I'm very impressed with Kipruto. This is certainly back to some sort of form. If he can hold on to this, then that would be quite something. But I have a feeling that Adola looks good, doesn't he? He looks very, very comfortable. But sometimes the difference between looking very comfortable and feeling that it's getting a very, very hard race is very, very narrow margins. Kipchoge just looks deep in concentration, doesn't he? The perfect marathon man, really. Very seldom in the past, you know, Chris, the favourite has won the Olympic marathon title, but he won it. Not only did he win it, but he won it, as I've mentioned before, by 70 seconds. It was the biggest margin for 44 years. And when you look at what Kipsang did in 2012, he went off and tried to run the legs off everyone and then faded and got well beaten in the end, which was a big learning process for him there. We've seen him much better than that since then, of course. Well, 2013, certainly, the year that he came of age, didn't he?
Yes, he did, yes. Kipsang there, right of picture, just having a glance across, keeping an eye on proceedings. Kipchoge there to his right, deep in concentration. Adola looks fresh as a daisy, doesn't he? He looks as though he's going out for a Sunday jog rather than a potential world record attempt.
Strasburger Platz then for the masses, or part of the masses. You can see them strung all the way around. Pretty well the whole course will be full at one stage, at least half of it will. It really is quite something.
And there a shot of Kenenisa Bekele, the defending champion, 20 seconds plus off the pace. And his Berlin Marathon over. You can't write him off just yet, but each kilometre that goes by, of course, it gives him less time to make up that gap.
Well, the women are heading towards 25 kilometres, we understand. And just looking to see who is there. Bariso is certainly there. Chirono is there, in the darker of the blue strip. Aga is there too. I'm just wondering where Ayabi is, who looked so good and so confident early on. I'm not sure whether she's leading that little group, or I don't think so, because the emphasis is on Chirono there as they come in now to 25 kilometres. We'll see whether that course record is in some difficulty.
Well, 1:22.26. So they're still in touch with that. They're not getting any further away from that course record. The gap there, just 13 seconds.
Well, I reckon that's about 2:19.10. You know, I reckon they could be just slightly inside it. I may be wrong, but I was just looking at my chart informally, and yeah, 2:19.7. They are inside the record at the moment. That's the official computer that's just come up at 2:19.07. So my unofficial was 2:10, so 2:19.10. So they are inside. So this augurs well. At this stage of the race, before we get into the final, let me just remind you that the world records, the first world record was set here in 1998 by the men I'm talking now. This is Ronaldo da Costa of Brazil, 2:6.05. Then it was 2003, Paul Tergat of Kenya, 2:4.55. Then twice, Haile Gebrselassie did it twice, 2:4.26, 2:3.59. The great man, fabulous stuff. And Patrick Macau had won in 2010, but he set the world record in 2011 at 2:3.38. And look at that, just breaking off there. A pacemaker has gone back to help Bekele. Now, I just wonder, that's interesting. One of the pacemakers has gone back to help him. And Wilson Kipsang, of course, we've mentioned that several times, in 2013, and Dennis Kimetto. The world marathons are terrific marathons. The Boston, London, Berlin, Chicago, New York, Tokyo, the big cities, they're the big ones. They're where the big names go. And this is one of them. It's very, very fast, this. Very fast. Coming close now to 30 kilometres. And Adola, well, looks comfortable. His debut marathon. Never been beyond half marathon before, certainly not in competition. May have been in training, obviously training, or he wouldn't be here. Looks comfortable, looking around, and he finds the former world record holder. He finds the finest marathon runner in the world on his left. He finds a young man who was a world championship silver medalist back in 2007. I mean, this is a new kid on the block.
Well, very impressive indeed, Adola. He looks so comfortable. Well, let's bring you the highlights of the wheelchair race. We saw them go off just before the elite start, and, well, no surprise at all. He blistered out at a wonderful pace. Marcel Hoog, the silver bullet because of the colour of his helmet you can see there. He was in the lead from gun to tape, and there he is coming across the line. His winning time, 1:29.03, for his 4th victory in Berlin. He won here in 2016, and really it was a question of the race for the 2nd and 3rd place, and it was a Japanese 2 and 3. 2nd place went to Kota Okuni in 1:32.42, and he just picked on the line his compatriot Ryota Yoshida in 1:32.43. So Marcel Hoog, a 4th victory in Berlin. And in the women's race, well, the hot favourite Manuela Schär from Switzerland, winning as she did last year in 1:40.05. It was a shame, really, because Tatiana McFadden, the American, and Amanda McCrory, who were going to be the main opposition for Manuela Schär, they couldn't get over here because of flight problems, and that just really strengthened the grip from Manuela Schär.
Well, the news is that, as you'll have seen on that small screen, this man, Vincent Kipruto, has dropped off the back and has found the pace pretty tough indeed. The silver medalist in the World Championships 2011 hasn't been beyond 2006 since 2013, if I remember correctly. Coming up to 30 kilometres, he's found it tough. He's dropped off the back, and so we're down to really 3, Kipsang and Kipchoge and Guye Adola. A man who's coming here as a debutant, a man who really is looking to be at the top of his game. Fabulous stuff. There he is in that grey top. I've mentioned it several times. He's got his refreshment this time. He missed it the previous time. A little bit of a look around to see if everyone else had got theirs. He's looking good. Kipchoge looks absolutely deep in concentration. He does take some beating. He really does. When you've won your last 7, I've mentioned all the big majors. He's won everything. And if he could win this one, then that would be absolutely fantastic. That's the only thing he's got left to do, really. Olympic champion. If he could be the world record. Ah, the pace has gone. 30 kilometres, 1:27.24 at 30 kilometres, 1:27.34, and that is just outside, I reckon, 2:03. I think they've dropped just outside now. I think so, but we'll get a look at that in a moment, and we'll see what the pacemaker's running out saying, well done, that was good. Well, I reckon that with Kipchoge and Adola and Kipsang has stopped. Well, what about that? What about that? Well, the pace absolutely tough, and now you've got Kipchoge versus a debutant. Kipsang has gone. He's stopped. He's out of the race. And what a sensational moment that was. I mean, I can't believe I think they're just outside the world record schedule. Ah, dead on it again. Look at that. They were outside at 29. They've come back in. And now look at that. Kipchoge, along with Adola, a man who has no record over the marathon, a man who's come to Berlin to do battle and is there with the top man in the world. Kipsang has gone.
Wow.
Bekele has gone. And so has Kipruto. Let's have a look. Let's have a look. He's got his drink. Took his drink. And then he falls away and rolls off the track.
Well, that's extraordinary, Stuart.
It is, yeah.
Absolutely no hint at all that was going to happen. That looked to me premeditated. He got to the 30k, and there he is, deep in conversation. And we shall try and find out what the reason was. But there was no sign for me, Stuart. That was imminent.
No, not at all. I mean, he was absolutely in the lead and looked very comfortable, and all of a sudden it had gone. I mentioned small margins in the past. I've no idea what it was, but this is certainly interesting, isn't it? Well, debutante.
In the blink of an eye, Stuart, we've gone from the famous 5. It's not that long ago we had all 5, and now we're down to 2. Bekele, first of all, dropping back at 22 kilometres. Kipsang dramatically, as you've just seen there, at 30, just stopping dead. And in the meantime, Kipruto, Vincent Kipruto, also dropping back as well. So now it's a straight shootout. It's a 2-horse race. Kipchoge against Adola.
We know what sort of finish Kipchoge's got. Look at Adola looking around. He thinks, wow, I've beaten some people here. 2:3:05 in London. And that's tough. He was close to the championship, to the world record in London. And that was the most impressive, setting a world best at 30 kilometres in London at 1:27:14. He really is class in every sense of the word, isn't he? 2:03:02, the predicted finishing time. I said they were just outside, but I reckon they'll come back in. If Kipchoge knows this, then he will know it from that car in front. But what's Adola got? I've no idea what his finishing speed is like. I've no idea at all. I know what Kipchoge can do. And we know that he knows he's the most experienced on the distance.
Well, the race needs Adola to stay in, doesn't he, for as long as possible.
Yeah.
He needs somebody to accompany him and push him forward. Kipchoge, of course, from here is the red-hot favourite of these two. He's got all the experience. But we need, from the race's perspective, and to increase the chances of a world record, for Adola to stay in.
Just looked a little bit apprehensive there for a moment, I thought, and a little glance to the side, one little wave to someone, which can indicate all sorts of things.
That's confidence, isn't it?
Well, yeah, indeed. But look at the difference. I mean, Kipchoge, he's so concentrated. His physicality is sensational. His mental preparation. But this man, well, we have no idea thus far what happened, but there's clearly felt something and pulled out at 30 kilometres, which is a great, great shame. What a shame. Great shame. He so wanted to come back and break a world record here.
Well, it's confirmation, isn't it, Stuart, as if we needed, that this distance is unforgiving, even for the very best.
I just wonder whether, I think, you know, there'll be a gradual increase of pace from Kipchoge, and whether Adola can stay with it, well, who knows? Once again, it's Kenya versus Ethiopia, isn't it? And Ethiopia have got a new find here. They thought it would be Bekele, but it's Adola. When I looked at the entry list and I saw there was a debutante who'd run close to 59 minutes, I thought, we've got to give him a look. We've got to see what he's doing. And that was good, wasn't it? Because, my goodness me.
Here we are, the leading women approaching 30 kilometres. And there we are, behind the lead car there, just outside an hour and a half on the clock. About a kilometre and a half to go to the 30k record. They are maintaining that gap at about 12 seconds on the course record. That course record held since 2005 by Mizuki Noguchi from Japan, 2:19.12. If you want to make a note of that. There is F4, Ayabe. She featured in our little preview piece as one of the main threats. She's still in there. Bariso is in there as well. Chirono in the blue, right of picture.
Yeah, they're all there, aren't they? Ayabe just tucked in behind in the red strip here, who really looked quite forceful in the first half of the race. But has given way a little bit, but she's still there. It's a good women's race. It's one of the best I've seen here, actually, with so many in contention at this stage of the race. And I think we shall see.
Yeah, Ruti there, F7 is perhaps, if anything, the surprise package, the Ethiopian. Looking very strong indeed. Chirono was just 13 seconds off the course record 2 years ago in Berlin. We mentioned that she'd had this long layoff through injury, a stress fracture last year. But here we are, the men. two-horse race. Youth against experience. The experience in the form of Eliud Kipchoge, who is on course to make it 8 wins out of 9. There we are, just outside world record pace, but not by much.
No, only a couple of seconds, and I like the way Adola keeps looking across out of the corner of his eye and thinking, I'm with the greatest marathon runner in the world here, and he's looking strong. I'm feeling all right, but he's looking strong. There's not a sign. His complexion, not his complexion, the way he's looked, his body language has been absolutely superb throughout. He's a solid citizen. His physicality is unprecedented. His mental, his psyche is brilliant too. He's a winner. He's proved it already. Whatever happens here, he is a winner. He is perhaps the greatest of all time, in a way, of this event. But Adola is impressing me immensely. 10 kilometers or less than 10k to go now. And I wonder whether there will be a subtle increase of pace from Eliud Kipchoge. You feel that if he could come so close in London, which is a more difficult course, then you think, and they say that he doesn't have to be 100%. This man can win when he's 90% or 96%.
But let's not forget, Stuart, he also knows what it feels like to run 2 hours and 25 seconds. We know that the conditions were artificial. We know it wasn't a legally recognised win. But the fact is, he still ran it on 2 legs. The same 2 legs, probably the same shoes or very similar. So he's got that huge psychological advantage of knowing what it takes to run just outside 2 hours. So this is within his comfort zone.
Look at that look again. Look at him looking at him all the time. Little glance to the left, just looking at him. How he's trying to get a look. How's he feeling? He's trying to get a clue as to how he's feeling.
Worth mentioning also, Stuart, that Kipchoge, for all his success, we mentioned earlier on that these guys, certainly the Kipchoges, the Bikeles, are multi-millionaires. He has remained very humble indeed. He prepares for this race in the same way as always. He goes to a training camp not too far from where he lives. He's chips in with everybody else. He can be seen chopping vegetables. He even cleans out the toilets along with the more junior people in the group that he races with. He hasn't got any airs and graces at all.
No.
He's very grounded, very, very disciplined, diligent, but hard-working and very, very humble. And is this the break now? Here is just a slight gap opening up.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, he's a man who comes from a poorer background. Family were farmers. He lives in Eldoret, family, training camp in Kattegat. And I almost sensed a little smile. Doesn't he look relaxed at the moment? I've mentioned that small margins can change things, certainly in this race. And I've seen it before, looking very good. And then all of a sudden, well, we saw it with Kipsang. Kipsang gave no sign of what was to come. And when he pulled out at 30k, I thought, well, surely he can't be pulling out. But he did. Adola sits there, still nothing. Still 8 or so kilometers. He's smiling. Look at that. There's a confidence in the look on that face, isn't there?
Yeah.
Look at that. He's saying, what are you doing here?
Yeah. Remind me of your name?
Yes, he certainly was the Olympic champion. No, he wasn't. He is the Olympic champion. And times in the Olympics don't matter. It's about winning the title, of course. The women, actually a little resurgence there by Yabi, actually, in the all red on the far side. And certainly that's Ruti Aga nearest to us. And there is Chirono, Gladys Chirono on the top, coming up to their 30-kilometer time. So we'll get an idea of what they're doing when we get this 30-kilometer time on the women.
Yeah, the mark we're looking out for in terms of course record is 1:38.49. That was Noguchi's course record. And again, I think there's been an injection of pace there. 1:38.58.
Well, I reckon that's 2:19.12. That's my rough appraisal. Well, we'll see.
Let's just crunch the numbers on our computers. And we are looking here.
Yep, 2:19.12 is the official verdict. And still no sign of Adola giving way, is there, in this men's race? He really is full of confidence.
Just starting to rock in the shoulders a little bit more if we're being very, very critical. Just looking for the most subtle signs of change here, because at this stage of the race, it starts to hurt.
Yeah.
You have to say, the man on the right is looking supremely relaxed. Just look at the shoulders, Stuart, the top of the shoulders. Kipchoge is looking very nice and even, and just starting to rock a little bit barrel-chested is Adola.
I tell you what, though, this is a brilliant, brilliant run by Adola. What a debut marathon this could be. It could be the fastest ever by a long, long way. I mean, it really is a superb performance. If you can hold tight on this, there's about 7.5 kilometers to go, or thereabouts. So there's still a little bit there. It says they're 4 seconds outside the record. But I think that can be made up, because we know what sort of finish we have in the legs of Eliud Kipchoge.
Well, let's not forget that this was the stage of the race from memory, Stuart. You'll correct me if I'm wrong, when Kipruto put in that surge, wasn't it? That brutal 5 kilometre.
That 14:10. 14:10 5K Kipruto put in at this stage, between 30 and 35. And that's what killed off the opposition, really. It was a fabulous piece of running.
Now, what is Kipchoge pointing at there? Look, he's mentioning, he's talking to Adola about the blue line. We mentioned it earlier on in commentary.
Yeah, he's probably telling him where to run.
It's a bit late, isn't it? 35 kilometres in.
Yeah, he says, well, you know, the blue line's where you follow that blue line down the middle. Oh, God, this is enthralling, isn't it?
Yeah. Again, a little bit of communication.
I'll tell you what he's saying. He says, come on, you take a bit of the lead then.
Well, actually, the serious point is we come back to Kipsang and Kenenisa Bekele last year. Kipsang was clearly slightly irked by the fact that he didn't feel that Bekele last year here in Berlin was doing his fair share of the workload, and thought that there was a lack of cooperation. And I wonder whether Kipchoge is saying the same thing here. Look, Adola, you're going to have to do your share of the work here.
He's really pushing on at this stage. A little bit of surge there. A little surge I just sensed there from him. Just away from that thing, but Adola's still there. He's not giving way, is he? He's not giving way at all. 35 kilometres gone then. 1:42.03, 1:42.04 at 35. 1:42.04. That gives you 2:3.05. They've dropped outside again. I think they're 6 or 7 seconds outside. 2:3.03, which is exactly the time that Bekele ran last year. But he will not feature now. We don't know whether he's still in the race, I have to tell you that. We know that Kipsang isn't, and we know that Kipruto has dropped right off. And we don't know whether he's managing to finish. But Kipchoge and Adola, these two. Ethiopian on the left of your shot now, the Kenyan on the right. Perhaps the greatest marathon runner of all time on the right.
Just getting figures through, Stuart, from 30 kilometres, so this is a little while ago. Kenenisa Bekele, exactly a minute off the leading group. That was 5 kilometres ago. And I can tell you also that Vincent Kipruto was 9 or 10 seconds back. So Kipruto in 4th place. And this was, of course, when Wilson Kipsang was still in the race. And as we now know, he is no longer in the race at all. There we are, confirmation of 35 kilometres. They're starting to drift, and I think that just reinforces the point we were making about how brutal that 5 kilometre injection of pace was by Dennis Kipruto when he set the world record here 3 years ago.
I wonder how Kipchoge will handle this, because I mean, Adola's an unknown quantity. I mean, he doesn't know what he's got. Probably never seen him before. Certainly not in a major race like this. Oh, I've certainly not seen Adola before, but he's full of confidence.
Well, he's up on his toes, isn't he? Look, he's looking very, very springy indeed, is Adola. Just slightly taller than Kipchoge, but very upright.
But just to make the point again, we do know what sort of pace Kipchoge's got in the final stages of a race, but we don't know what Adola's got. But so far, he's showing immense form. This has got to be, at the rate he's going, this is probably going to be, it's certainly going to be the fastest debut marathon of all time, if he can hold on to this.
Just getting confirmation through after 35 kilometres. Vincent Kipruto still in third place now, with Kipsang having dropped out, but he's over a minute behind. So really, it quite literally is a two-horse race here in terms of these two, Adola and Kipchoge.
It's not gone with the script. Well, it has as far as Kipchoge is concerned, but not in terms of Bekele or Kipsang. Those two have dropped away, and the pace was pretty tough, I must admit, but then they must have expected that. But Kipchoge not only runs fast, but he's a good competitor. He's got a wily brain. He knows what to do thus far. The only difference here is he's against an unknown quantity. How much has the short, striding Ethiopian got in the final stages? Will he try and push away? When will he try and push away? And how far will he be able to get away from Adola?
Well, a definite smile appearing on the face of Kipchoge there. And given the pace and the sheer speed at which these guys are running, it's almost unthinkable that you could actually have the energy to find a smile on your face. But look, he's actually enjoying it. He's almost laughing.
There's a lot of psychology going on here. Crowds giving them all the support that they need. Just over 4.5 kilometers to go, and
yeah, this is one of the landmark places, the Wilde Eber, the wild boar. Fans coming out in force. That's at around the 28-kilometer mark, about 28.5. So quite a way back. The rain has abated, I can tell you.
And some very good club runners, of course, you can see there going through your picture now. And they will have been at the very front of the masses as they're all graded. Adola's really pushing on, isn't he? He's trying so hard. A little bit of a rock and roll, a little bit of a look. This is so intriguing. Fabulous, fabulous race we've got in prospect here. Can Kipchoge hold him off?
Well, that would be a story of all stories, wouldn't it? If Adola was to do the unthinkable. It would almost be impudent, wouldn't it? Yeah. For the young man, the young pretender, in his first ever full marathon, to actually go on and win it. Let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. There's a long, long way to go here in terms of twists and turns. But he's looking very, very comfortable indeed.
Well, the tactics of the racing. And there you'll see on that vehicle in the front the times that they are getting on board there. They're 70 meters behind the world record at the moment. Look at this. Adola's gone into the front. He's gone into the lead. He's running away. Adola's pushing on. Look at this. This is impudence like you've never seen before. We said early on that Kipchoge had not had that long to recover from the Monza 2 hours and 25 seconds, but look at this. This could be sensational.
Well, this is a story, isn't it, unfolding here?
Unbelievable story unfolding.
What drama.
The Kipchoge is on the blue line. Adola is way over on the far side, off the circuit. I tell you what, Kipchoge is not finished yet. Watch this. But I'm very, very impressed with Adola. We're certainly seeing the fastest debut marathon of all time. We must be here.
Well, approaching 37.5 kilometres. They're on the Potsdamer Straße, heading towards Potsdamer Platz at 38 kilometres.
Well, here's a man on the right here in the white top who's won his last 7. He's won 7 out of 8 of his marathons. He's the Olympic champion. And on the left, you've got an Ethiopian, a young guy who's come here and has challenged the very best in the world. He had a 59.06 half marathon. That's all he had. We haven't really seen him before. This is his debut marathon. It's certainly going to be the fastest debut we've ever seen. That's for sure. Because they're just close to world record at the moment. 2:3:10, I think, is the schedule at the moment. But they're going to have to really power it over the last couple of kilometres or so to get that record, that's for sure.
Well, we said it earlier on, Stuart, of Bekele, didn't we? Let's not write him off just yet. And in the end, actually, Bekele went quite badly wrong. I think it's still too early to write Kipchoge off at this stage. There's still plenty of time for him to come back. And of course, he's got all the experience, hasn't he, in his memory bank. He's been here before. He knows how to do this. But let's just remind ourselves, he's only ever lost one marathon in his entire career. It was 2013, wasn't it? 2013.
Yeah. And it may be that the weather is taking its toll, but we'll see. It's still a good way to go. It's, what, 4.5 kilometers to go. So we're inside the last 5,000 meters. Now, here's a 5,000 meter specialist on the left of your shot, Kipchoge. But he's been a long way. Look at this gap. But I mean, what sort of sprint finish has Adola got? Is he trying to get away because he knows about Kipchoge's sprint finish? Look at this, he's coming back to him, isn't he? Slowly but surely, look.
Yeah, he won't panic.
But this is wonderful, this is intriguing. This is one of the best I've seen, despite the demise of Bekele and Kipsang and the rest. This is really exciting because a new kid on the block, I've mentioned that several times before. Look at him, he's smiling. Kipchoge still smiling. He's still got him in his sights. He's not going to let him go. Look at this, he's coming up alongside him again. And Kipchoge is actually running along the blue line, I think. Whereas Adola went and drifted right over. Here he comes, look, back into the race. Now then, what will that do to Adola? If Kipchoge comes up alongside, it was quite a significant gap. And if he comes up alongside, look at this. He's running right down the blue line, which is the shortest marathon route, whereas the other, Adola, looking across again. Adola looked across just then and said, oh, he's back.
And we saw Kipchoge, didn't we, pointing to the blue line only, what, 5 or 6 minutes ago and saying, look, that's the line you need to follow. We made slightly a joke of it in commentary. And Adola didn't listen, did he?
Now, this will help Kipchoge because he's now got a bit of a pacemaker going on here. What a debut marathon this young man is producing.
He still looks fresh though. He still looks as though he's got some petrol left in the tank, that's for sure.
Guye Adola of Ethiopia. If we hadn't heard about him before today, we certainly have now, and the world of marathon running will have heard about him now. Look at this. 4 kilometers, just under 4 kilometers to go. 2:3:17. There's been an awful lot of running if they're going to challenge that record. He's still not sure what's happening. Look at that, the gap again. He's pushed off again. I just wonder, there's going to be one very, very powerful sprint in at the end. And Kipchoge, Eliud Kipchoge, mustn't underestimate this young fella. Obviously he doesn't now. This is a remarkable story unfolding here. We may or may not get a world record today, but we have a newcomer in the world of marathon running emerging here from Ethiopia. Not Kenenisa Bekele, but a young guy, Guye Adola. An unbelievable performance. And he's getting away again. What's going to happen in the last couple of kilometers or so? Very difficult to read this.
Well, it's cat and mouse stuff, isn't it? Adola, who made the break, just to reprise the last 5 minutes or so, made the break at about 36.5 kilometers. Kipchoge responded and came right back onto his shoulder, but Adola has kicked again. And Kipchoge, who's got all the experience, he's won here before, he knows what it takes. But we don't know, this is the question, we don't know what sort of finish Adola has got in his legs. And neither does Kipchoge, probably.
Well, the women still together. That is at the back there. That's Aga. Ruti Aga is dropping off the back there, but I can see a Yabi in that red vest, and also Chirono is about 10 meters behind, isn't she? Chirono is there. That looks like, I think it's Chirono, and a Yabi. I'm not sure whether is it Bariso? I'll see.
Bariso is way back.
Yeah, that is Chirono. Chirono leading from a Yabi.
Yeah, this is down to a two-horse race in the women's race, and Chirono there in the blue, F2 on the back. Winner here, of course, 2 years ago, remember. Probably the favourite on paper with all that experience. But Adola, this is the story of the Berlin Marathon 2017 so far. There's no doubt about that. Is there one final twist, one turn in the last 2 or 3 kilometres? I wonder.
He's getting away. He really is. He's put the pedal down. He's getting away. And that is deceptive. He's quite a long way ahead now. And we'll just see what happens now with Kipchoge, whether he can get back from this. He's still doing the shortest route on the blue line, that's for sure. And you just feel that he's got him in his sights, but I'm not sure anymore. I'm not sure anymore because Adola looks still full of running. I've never seen a debutant look so comfortable.
Well, the cadence is still very impressive. It's holding up well. He's just having a little glance down the barrel of the camera there. He looks to be something of a showman, doesn't he, Adola?
Yeah.
Supreme confidence. And that's the view that Kipchoge has. Kipchoge, remember, who's won 7 of his 8 marathons. Virtually unbeatable. Will he be beaten today?
Yeah, I just wonder whether he'll come up, if we can get up alongside Adola, and what effect that would have on Adola. If he could get back to him here, he is closing, I think. That is definitely closing a little. And coming up to 40 kilometres, 19 seconds outside of the world record. 19 seconds outside, and that looks very, very difficult now.
Yeah, I think we can say with some certainty that the world record has gone now. And I think we can really say that the conditions, as we hinted right at the top of the programme, that the conditions have indeed played the part. The one important ingredient in that perfect cake looks as though it's ruined the recipe that we needed for the world record.
Yeah, indeed it is, but we've got a real race. I mean, this is bonus. He's coming up alongside Adola again, as Kipchoge is. And now he's smiling at a look, and Adola looks behind him and sees him. Now, that's the point I was making. What effect will it have? Look, here he goes. He's alongside him now. And Adola will know about Kipchoge. But look at that. He was so far down, and all of a sudden he's back in the race again alongside. Now, what that will do, beautifully, he didn't want to drink Adola, but certainly Kipchoge took on board his liquid, got it well. It was beautifully done. And looks very, very comfortable again all of a sudden. Now, will we see a surge from Kipchoge now? Did that surge from Adola take a little bit out of those legs? This looks like Kipchoge again taking on board. 1:57.08. 1:57.08 at 40k. Well, yeah, that's well outside the world record. I think the point 2:3:33 now. But this is now down to a real race, and that is bonus in every sense here. If the record is not going to go, then I have to say that the race is superb. All of a sudden, a little bit of rocking and rolling from Adola behind the great man, but Kipchoge looks full of confidence, doesn't he? But is Adola finished? 2 kilometres, less than 2 kilometres, less than 2,000 metres to go. Will there be a subtle increase of pace? Can Kipchoge get away from Adola? Look at that, there's a little gap opening up. Just a slight gap. Nothing much yet, but just slight. Look at this, and now all of a sudden there's a subtle increase of pace. Absolutely superb, very subtle.
Well, Kipchoge, with all his experience on the track, what's the first rule of overtaking, Stuart? You'll know this from your competing days, is to go straight past. And having trailed by quite a few metres, then Kipchoge comes back. That's the Gendarme Markt, which is very, very close to the finish now. They're into the last 2 kilometres, and there's a series of dog legs before they eventually hit Unter den Linden, the famous lime tree lined avenue that takes us into the finishing straight, and they will be there in just over a kilometre's time. Kipchoge wanted that world record. He's not going to get it today. But Adola isn't finished yet. Can Adola, the young pretender, summon one last effort and upset the form book here?
Kipchoge looks comfortable still, and look at him. There's a little bit of a gap, just a little bit of gap. What will that do to the psyche of the young man? The young man who's come here running his first marathon. Look at this now, the gap. It's subtle. It's just begun to move away just a little bit. Whereas Adola, his break was not significant. And at the moment, with less than 2 to go now, Kipchoge starts to move away from the young man. Winner in 2015 in 2:04. Big smile on his face. He is such a great competitor. He's won 7 of his last 8. Is it going to be 8 out of his last 9? He is the Olympic champion. But what he wanted, above all, was not only to win this, but to break the world record. And it's not going to happen today. It's not going to happen today. This look at that gap now. Adola's finished now, I think. I don't think he can come back from this. I've said that before and said, well, I regret that. But you're talking about a different class here. Eliud Kipchoge, the champion in every sense. He is magnificent. Magnificent.
Well, it's extraordinary, isn't it? It was a steely determination. He was very bullish in his press conference on Friday, talking very positively about 60-45, 60-50 for the first half. Just to remind you, they went through in the end in 61-29, so it was outside that. But Kipchoge is so strong mentally. And look at that. He is enjoying himself here on the streets of Berlin.
He's now in full flight, the Olympic champion. The best marathon runner the world has ever seen. Heading now towards the finish, ahead of a young man who's acquitted himself so unbelievably well in the form of Guye Adola of Ethiopia. But then once they get to the Brandenburg Gate, there's 400 meters through to the finish. But Kipchoge always had that little look of confidence on his face, even when Adola ran away from him. Even explaining to the young man the blue line is the shortest possible route in this marathon. That's what you should run to. He had the confidence to tell him, let him run away, come back past him and run away from him again. It really is a master. He is a master technician, a master tactician, a man with tremendous physicality, a man with a psyche that will not allow him to be beaten. The crowd now is vast down by Brandenburg Gate. He is absolutely in full flight now. Total and utter control throughout this race. We saw the demise of Bekele at 22 kilometers. We saw the demise of Wilson Kipsang at 30 kilometers. And then, of course, a young man, a young pretender, Guye Adola, has never run a marathon before, looking very, very tired now. Tried to test the master, and he did for a while. But with 400 meters to go, Eliud Kipchoge is going to come through to take this. The world record is not going to be broken today, that's for sure. The weather didn't allow that. That's a shame, because we had the very best in the world come together. But this man is, without any doubt, without any question, the best marathon runner we've ever seen. Fabulous, fabulous tactician, from world champion at the age of 18 over 5,000 meters to winning 8 now of his last 9 marathons. He will not be beaten. He's only been beaten once, and that was by the man that dropped out at 30 kilometers. Only once, and it took a world record to beat him on that occasion. Eliud Kipchoge of Kenya looks up at the clock. It's not the fastest time we've seen here, but I tell you what, it's been one of the most enthralling races I've seen here. Eliud Kipchoge is the winner of the 44th Berlin Marathon. A sensational piece of tactical running, 2:3:31 unofficial, outside of the world record, the 3rd fastest time of all time, and this has got to be the fastest debut ever. It has to be from Adola. The tacticians may correct me, but I think that is 2:3:46 has got to be the fastest debut ever. That is absolutely incredible run by a young Ethiopian who came here with a half marathon best of 59:06. He was an absolute outstanding in the first half of the race. Eliud Kipchoge at one stage was teaching him. This is the blue line, he said. This is the shortest way. And my goodness me, what a race in the end. And what a masterful piece of tactical running by the greatest marathon in my book of all time, Eliud Kipchoge of Kenya. Well, here comes Kandie, actually. Well, that's interesting. That's Felix Kandie. It's come past Kipruto. Geremew as well. Geremew, Kandie and Geremew coming in. Geremew, this is his second marathon, so the youngsters are having a real go at this. Kipruto's in that group as well. So, Kandie, Geremew, Kipruto for third place, for a podium place. And Felix Kandie, well, I wonder whether he will do it. Oh, gosh, there are races all over the place, aren't there? Geremew and Kandie, these two, 400 metres to go. Who's got the sprint finish? Kipruto was in that leading group and has had to give way in the final stages. Felix Kandie, a best of 2:6:03 coming into this race. Personal best, previous personal best, 2:6:25 in October 16. Then he went to his personal best, 2:6:3 today. So, Geremew on the left of that leading two, and Kandie on the right. There they are, Kandie looking. Who's in full flight? Geremew starts to open up and power his way. Can he take the third place? Has Kipruto got anything left? He deserves something. And it looks like Geremew coming through into third place. Kandie in fourth place. Kipruto in fifth place. A wonderful, wonderful piece of running. And Geremew, well, you've got to say, well done to him as well, because he's come through very, very strongly in the final race. He's got a best half marathon of 59:11. He's come here with a personal best of 2:10:20. He's knocked 4 minutes off it. That's an astonishing piece of running. And my book, I think he's got a 2:10:20 in China this year. Well, he's improved that considerably. Well, yes, what about that?
That was extraordinary. So Kenya wins the day with Kipchoge, but Ethiopia coming in second and in third. Well, the script, well, you can write the script any way you want, but it's not what we expected in terms of the race. The Bekeles, the Kipsangs, not featuring, and we still have the women's race to bring home for you. And there is Gladys Chirono, who was the pre-race favourite, who has made her break, and she is approaching the 40-kilometre mark. 38 kilometres just coming through Potsdamer Platz as Eliud Kipchoge continues his celebration. He just simply will not be beaten. Eliud Kipchoge, only 32 years old, but what experience. Interesting to hear from him after the race, of course, about how disappointed he is not to win the world record. That's what he said he set out to do here. But I think it's fairly obvious for all watching that the conditions did play a significant part. It really did rain very, very heavily indeed. There wasn't too much wind, that wasn't the problem. The pacemakers did a brilliant job, but in the end, and I think the Kineto 14:10 5-kilometre split late in that race when he did that in 2014 certainly was significant there as well. Kipchoge there, enjoying his moment.
And well, he might, because he was always in control, wasn't he? I just wondered about the young man, Adola. He tried his best. You can't fault him, the way in which he attacked, but this is a man who will not be beaten. It's not in his psyche. He's the winner this year, 2:3:32, another sub 2:4. Absolutely an unbelievable competitor.
Well, let's return to the women's race. Gladys Chirono in the box seat here with just under 4 kilometres to go. She's made her break. Will it be a decisive one? Ruti Agi had been dropped a little bit earlier, but she was back in contention at 35 kilometres. But Gladys Chirono now. Gladys Chirono, the winner here in 2015. Only missed the course record on that occasion by 13 seconds. They've not let that course record get too far out of their sights, but it's highly unlikely, I think, that the course record will go today. I think Noguchi's mark of 2:19:12 will remain intact for another year. Gladys Chirono approaching the 39-kilometre mark. and she is now out on her own. 34 years old, won here 2 years ago. She finished on that occasion fully 90 seconds ahead of Abero Kibede in second place. Kibede, incidentally, who was among the early entrants here but withdrew a few weeks ago. There is Kipchoge, and those are the photographs that will appear in newspapers and across the world tomorrow in the next few days.
Talking about Chirono, a lengthy period of injury in the spring of 2016, that put paid to her chances of going to the Olympic Games in Rio. She had a stress fracture that year, and actually at one stage she feared that she might never run again. But fortunately for her, she's recovered well, and well, the rest is history. She is in control here. She won in 2015. This is going to be her second win. In fact, when she won in 2015, that was only her second marathon, and it was the second fastest time. I think it was the third fastest time actually ever run, because Vikichenko, I think, ran a little bit quicker than that in 2008. But that's the third fastest time run in Berlin for this young woman. I was just looking at this season. She'd had a 2:27 in Boston this season. She was 5th in the Boston Marathon. So this is very much an improvement. She would have wanted to have taken that record, because I think that she had the credentials to do it. But once again, as we've said with the men, the conditions early on, particularly in the first half of the race, took their toll, didn't they? And I think that it's really, in this sense, gone with the script, as well as in the men, really. But the actual tenor of the men's race did not go with the script. It was very, very different to what we expected, certainly. But the women, yes.
Yes, very much so. Going to the form book here, Gladys Chirono on her way to a second victory here. It's worth reflecting, actually, this is only her 4th full marathon. So she's still a relative novice here. And it does put into context, doesn't it, Stuart? The world record set by Paula Radcliffe in 2003, 2:15.25. It really is out there on its own, although Mary Keitany, of course, came up with a wonderful performance in London earlier this year, just outside 2:17. So she's nibbling away, isn't she?
Yeah.
Mary Keitany, certainly the favourite to get close to that world record by Paula Radcliffe. And here is Gladys Chirono, approaching 40 kilometres, and this is where the doglegs start. And within the space of 2 kilometres, she'll find herself on Unter den Linden, and she'll have the Brandenburg Gate, that iconic monument, which is the gateway to the final 400 metres of this wonderful race. Still looking pretty fresh, slightly forward-leaning style. The arms still working hard. The cadence has maintained very nicely. She's got one or two male runners ahead of her as rabbits, if you like, as they call them, to try and pick off. And Gladys Chirono now will be able to bring you the extent of her lead once she goes through 40 kilometres. But as things stand, Valerie Ayabe, the Kenyan, her fellow Kenyan, was in second place, and Ruti Aga lying down in third, but they've dropped off because the break in the end was decisive by Gladys Chirono. So just through 40 kilometres, 2:12.46 going through the 40-kilometre mark, and the course record is way off.
Yeah.
Now that will not happen.
No, she's outside 2:20 now.
Series of left-hand turns, as we mentioned, going through Gendarmenmarkt. For those of you who know Berlin, she's just taking a cut across the pavement there, and there it is. 25 seconds the gap now on her compatriot Valerie Ayabe, who's done well, actually, wearing the red vest for Kenya. We'll get a shot of her, I'm sure, very shortly. But 25 seconds at this stage of the race is surely far too much to make up. Chirono just injecting a bit more pace there. She can sense that victory is almost hers.
Yes, we saw her. She started running, incidentally, in Spanish road races back in 2004. She's been around a fair old while. She was the first woman to win the 5 and 10,000 metres in the African Championships back in 2012. She got a half marathon personal best set last year at 66:07, and really she's got all the credentials. She just needs to keep her fitness over a longer period of time so that she can dip into that fitness and get beyond that 2:19 figure. It's quite clear she's capable of doing that. Not on the day. It will be probably the 4th or 5th or 6th fastest in the world this year. You've mentioned Mary Keitany, 2:17.01 in London, and then Tiranish Dibaba did 2:17.56 also in London, and then Sarah Chepchirchir of Kenya in Tokyo, 2:19.47, and then it went to Rianoripo of Kenya, 2:20.55 in 4th. So they're just to give you a flavour of the top 4 or so.
She's almost there. Final kilometre and a half, the final mile in old money. Gladys Chirono hoping to make it a Kenyan double in Berlin, not for the first time, and the domination of the East African countries, Kenya and Ethiopia, continues. Kenenisa Bekele last year, of course, for Ethiopia was a rare, an increasingly rare victory, because in recent years it really has been Kenya dominating this race here in Berlin. Eliud Kipchoge has already got victory in the men's race for Kenya, and Gladys Chirono on her way to make it a double.
Yeah, remember 2013 Moscow World Championship 10,000. She got the silver medal. She was the world champion in half marathon in 2014. She's got some credentials that underlie a potential that is below 2 hours and 19. That's absolutely clear.
She's 34 years old now, so entering the twilight of her career. She can go on running, of course, for quite some time yet. We think of Konstantina Dieter, the Olympic champion who won at the age of 38. So she's got a few more years left as she approaches 41 kilometres. 1.2 kilometres to go. And she is about to emerge on Unter den Linden, that famous avenue that will then give her the Brandenburg Gate in her sights. Victory all but secure here. She's got a comfortable lead over Valerie Ayabe of Kenya. It's been a competitive race, actually. At 35 kilometres, there were still 3 athletes in it, unlike in the men. But Chirono made that decisive break. I wonder if that was, again, premeditated, all part of the carefully crafted plan with the coach and with the management team beforehand. If I'm feeling good, I think I'll do such and such at such a point in the race. And here she is now. She's got a left turn, which will take her into Unter den Linden, and that's the final turn, effectively, of this entire course. It's straight as a die all the way, and she will be greeted by an increase in noise. The crowds thicken on Unter den Linden, and here she is, the final turn. There it is, and she's now on the home straight. Less than a kilometre to go, and again, she can just use these male runners, who are still very good runners, incidentally, in their own right, as targets.
Yeah, just to mention to American viewers that Ryan Vail came in 8th place in this race with, 2:12.40 behind the 2 Japanese runners.
Yeah, just confirmation, as we mentioned earlier on, that Kenenisa Bekele, who dropped back very, very quickly, actually did formally drop out of the race. He failed to finish. Johnny Mellor, incidentally, finished 10th in the men's race. So here we are, the final few hundred metres here for Gladys Chirono, and the noise being ratcheted up by the public address announcer, getting the support of the crowd on this famous Unter den Linden Avenue. Gladys Chirono, 600 metres to go. The Brandenburg Gate, that iconic landmark, as she passes the Adlon Hotel, the famous Adlon Hotel, with the red canopy you can see there on the left of picture, made famous by Adolf Hitler all those years ago. And when she passes under the gate, of course, which at one time separated East and West Berlin, it was such a major landmark, and continues to be so in this wonderful city, which this weekend is doubly busy, of course, with the federal elections going on. German nationals voting all day today, and many people deciding to come out and watch the marathon in the morning and then go and vote in the afternoon. But here she is, Gladys Chirono, champion here in 2015, as she enters the final 400 metres. In track terms, she's hit the bell. The bell is here, and she's on her way. And what a sight that is. All the sights and sounds on the avenue of the 17th of June, with the finish line in sight. She won't break 2:20. The course record is safe. 2005 by Noguchi. But Gladys Chirono is going to make this a Kenyan double, with Eliud Kipchoge already safely through. The marshals there making sure the men go to the left, and Gladys Chirono still looking pretty comfortable, rocking slightly from side to side, but the arm carriage is still holding up very well indeed. Victorious in 2015, in 2:19.25. She won't get as close to that as she would like, and there's a battle going on here for second place, because Aga has come back and she's reeled in Ayabe. So a final little twist even in the last kilometre in the women's race, but Gladys Chirono will make it a second victory here in Berlin. It's a Kenyan double in 2017. Gladys Chirono, winner in 2015, wins again in 2017. 2:20.21 the winning time. A wonderful performance by Gladys Chirono, the fourth fastest in the world this year. Gladys Chirono is a two-time Berlin Marathon champion, and Ruta Aga has rallied well here and comes home into second place. Just like in the men, it's an Ethiopian who finishes second. Ruta Aga has smashed her personal best, almost 3 minutes off her lifetime best, and it's Valerie Ayabe from Kenya who comes home in second place. Smiles all round, and once again it's East Africa dominant here in Berlin. Kenya 1, Ethiopia 2 and Kenya 3. But Stuart, for the second time, Gladys Chirono, the form book was respected, and she's victorious here in 2017.
It's taken a lot out of her, as you can see, being helped away from this finish. Absolutely spent at the end of this 42-kilometre journey, but for the second time she wins. She doesn't get the record that she wanted, but my goodness me, if the weather's right, the conditions are right, then there's every chance she could do it. But she's very unsteady on her legs, isn't she? Ruta Aga did very well to come into second, and Ayabe into third place. It's a very good race in the end, but a little shake of the head, perhaps what might have been. And they were all trying to get below that 2:20 mark, and that's Ayabe. Good race, but Chirono at last standing on her own, but on very, very unsteady legs, I can tell you. Photographers will be getting all the pictures that they can get here.
Just a shot there of the race director in the orange top, Mark Milder, with the glasses on. He's the guy who's responsible for selecting and paying these top athletes, the elite athletes from all over the world, to come and run in Berlin, and they do so